And we find ourselves seated at the table just as players, not as campaigners. We find ourselves just chilling.
Can we take a moment?
I agree. Let's take a moment
To show Fox's start to finish arc.
Yes,
and appreciate that.
Let's do it.
To be honest, Fox's character arc in this campaign, I'm not exaggerating. This sounds like a lot, but I'm not exaggerating. Is my favorite character arc of any D&D character that I've been in the same party with. Even just like this little bit that's been added on at the end, I thought Fox's character arc couldn't get any better, and somehow I was wrong.
Yeah.
I think this is the first D&D character that I had like a long time to work with.
Yeah.
So I mean, it means a lot to me that you were like, yeah, good character arc. I'm like, I was trying really hard. I was trying to figure out, is this what Fox would do? Is this gonna throw the game? I don't know.
Cleo frantically flipping through character sheets, trying to.
I will say, I was like at the end there, like, what would Fox do? And I'm like, you know what? That's the thing. Fox is Fox. He might want to like help out Kelnor. I'm already seeing like years down the line, there's gonna be a phone call with the deity, and it's try and be like, Kelnor's like, all right, man, you need to chill out on some other stuff. I'm like, I'm trying to chill out, but like, he started it, and it's just like, yeah, that's not like kind of what a Kelnor avatar would do, and I'm already that conversation will happen. Fox has not changed so drastically, dying.
Oh yeah.
That
it's just funny how he started this adventure being like, yeah, I don't really like Kelnor or Kay or the
I don't even believe in him. He doesn't exist.
Yeah, my parents were a bunch of hippies. They lied to me.
And then by the end, he is the avatar of Kelnor.
Well, if he can convince the other four.
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen with that.
But presumably getting to that point. He's accepted the job.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been offered the position. I just have to do the interview, which is a little backwards.
That is a little backwards, but so is everything with Kelnor. Let's be real.
It's like the CEO came to you and was like, I really like your resume. Please go through HR.
Yeah.
Man.
Ah, nepotism.
I will say I think we all went through a lot through this, and I'm just proud. I think Owlin showed a lot of change, and it was subtle too. And that's the changes I like. I like the subtle changes that are like in reality very different, but you have to pay attention. You have to see like, oh no, this is a soldier who's turned into a leader.
Yeah.
This is somebody who's like solving problems, and part of those problems are himself and figuring these things out, and just seeing how his behavior subtly changes and his mannerisms change. Sorry, that's a callback to. Were we live for that?
No.
Okay.
I like Owlin's arc. There's a saying that I heard that recently that kind of resonated with me. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Or that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I think Owlin is a really cool warrior in a garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. I really like that. I think one thing in Alan's arc that really stuck with me was I believe it was a tavern talk near the beginning of the campaign. This was, I think, even before. I think it was like around the time that we found the first rod. No PCs had either died or been captured yet. And Wash, you asked me what Owlin's view of leadership was.
Oh, was that the one where we were doing like the card thing, like asking those questions during the company building seminar?
And my response was that Owlin believes that a true leader is one that leads out of necessity, not out of because they want to
like
lead,
ambition,
right?
something like that.
Yeah. And as soon as like Wash asking me that question and thinking about that, I had no idea then. But as soon as Alan felt like he was being put in a leadership position after Jeb got captured, that became the central tenet of Alan's character for me. And I think that like that being a guiding light for me as to like what would Alan do, all filters through that. Made, I think, really helped me a lot with characterizing Alan in the second half.
That's cool.
Of the campaign.
That's cool.
How about you two over there? I gotta say,
we're just vibing.
Yeah, man.
Vibe buddies.
I think like Zoth had his growth during like the pacifist to learning that he has to sort of fight sort of phase. And then he was more of a like
he was our stone.
Yeah.
And then we lost his stone. And then we kind
Do you
of
mean rock?
Are they not the same thing?
They are the same. I don't
Yeah, but
understand.
like to say he was my rock.
I know.
Yeah.
The saying is literally saying rock. But you know what I was...
He was our loaded stone.
I was just trying to confirm that that's what you were going with that.
All the things that are in the Cleocabulary to like have an issue with, I
didn't have an issue. I'm
shook that this is one of the ones that we had to like derail the thought for.
If that's what you if that's what you were meaning.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
But yes.
But you were saying that
You were our
Zothkug
stone.
was our stone, yes.
Yeah.
Zothkug was our stone, our rock. And then we lost him. And you could see it happen. Like,
it affected like
the
players.
party was almost
Yeah.
immediately started separating. You know, and I losing Jeb was the final straw as well. Like, because we lost Jeb after we lost Zoth, right?
No, it's the other way
Was
around.
it the other way around?
Yeah. So like
Because Zoth
we
was
lost,
a part of the conversation for finding Jeb.
And that's right, because then once Zoth was gone, that's when like Alan and Fox split.
Yeah, because it was just like, we had two completely different ideas as to
That
what the
was-
right thing to do was.
That was in Jeb's letter to Zoth, is that you're the glue. You're what's going to be there to hold them together. And then when he was gone, literally split apart.
Yeah.
And that was the best part was it wasn't fabricated. It wasn't like, Zoth's gone, so we have to split.
Yeah.
It was just
we were both RPing our characters, and our characters were disagreeing.
I think when I was writing those letters, like I wasn't trying to like dictate or like direct or something that.
No.
I was like, I know what Alan's going to do.
Yeah.
I know what Fox is going to do.
Yeah.
And I know that Zoth needs to like
be the mediator.
Has to.
One of my favorite things about DMing for this group of players is that there, like, I haven't had to force moments; they just keep happening. You know?
Yeah.
There's all these moments that I'm like, oh, that's like what you see in the movie. That's like such a cool like cinematic turning point or whatever. And in my head, I'm like, I mean, I could have tried to script it, but it would have been worse.
Yeah.
Like the ones you all created
It's the
were
best
better.
version of it's what my character would do.
The best kind of collaborative storytelling for sure.
I will say we had a nice chemistry. There's something in storytelling, and I forget the exact like labels, but like characters tend to have like, okay, this is the Lancer.
Oh, yeah,
This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
leader.
Yeah,
And-
Archetypes.
Yeah.
Archetypes.
And we fell into that nicely, and I think without even trying, in the sense of like we just happened to create characters who chemistry and dichotomy like either both clashed and got along, right? Which created drama and created
There was like
moments.
healthy tension.
Yeah, I think that's the benefit of like a good session 0 and also good communication with the DM, because I think Josh did a good job at the very beginning and when we created new characters for further sessions
Oh, yeah.
to like encourage us in certain directions, because he knew the directions that other characters were going to be created in.
Thinking of story circles and kind of revisiting that.
Yeah, so that's really helpful.
I will say, to just fluff up the DM a little bit. I do love, because he did it yesterday off camera. He has a very good tendency to like kind of like, hey, here are your options.
Yeah.
You got A, B. She's really awesome, but I'm not going to tell you it's awesome. And D. And but he does it like actually good, like subtly, and like when he was explaining to me after I died, here's what we could do with you as a player in the meantime, right? You could play this out, we could play this out, and he didn't give any like real pros or cons that were like story affecting. He was just like, it felt like more like, here's what we could do with your time while you're sitting at the table.
Yeah.
You could play as an avatar, or you could,
Plays a villain.
play as a villain, or I don't know, run out the death of Fox a little bit.
Like follow him to whatever's beyond.
just pick an option. And but See, I want to know. He knew he was giving me that little leash. He's that little line, and I'm just saying he has a very good way.
The illusion of choice.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it was, as you
He
said,
could have done
very
cool
important.
stuff. You know, chose other things too. That could have been cool too. But
I don't think it was on camera, but he did say that had I chose differently, the ending would have changed drastically.
Yeah.
So without me have chosen what I did for to see Fox out.
Yeah.
It's
we
okay
could
if
have
you need
changed
to
the
like
story.
say spoilers.
I know. I felt weird. It
Yeah.
feels weird.
Yeah,
I don't want to
chat,
pull back the
spoiler
curtain
warning.
too far.
We're about to do an Ask the GM anything later
Yeah,
this session.
yeah, this
so
is
yeah,
full spoilers.
spoiler warning,
We've
chat.
finished
This
the
is the
campaign.
one.
So yeah, no, he's literally just telling me after everything happened. He's like, yeah, if you had chosen any other option, that moment where Fox like pulls the anchor up and
Yeah.
saves the machine and gives them one more chance, that would have never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would have lost.
That,
Yeah.
that was a lost condition. That
Oh,
like the only
man.
fallback was if a player character is on the other side, because the player characters are so tied into what's happening that
Yeah.
they have enough of a link, like an anchor to the.
Wow.
So, yeah,
imagine,
no.
imagine if this session was us being like, wow, yeah, remember when we did that 3-year-long campaign and failed? Like,
Yeah.
oh, man.
I know it was stressful at the time, but I love that it was that close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, the fear for me is always that the stakes won't feel real.
Yeah.
And so for it
Yeah.
to literally be, we are within 1 hit point of our failure condition.
Oh yeah.
you
That's
know,
wild.
that was a big deal for
Yeah.
I
me.
mean, and then that last minute adding of the pylon added 2d12 or whatever to the hit
Yeah,
points.
yeah,
Like it would have went down.
It would have
before
been
that.
killed way before
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
And that was like that action was born out of like, well, I don't really have anything else for Cheddar to do. Like, what can he do during his turn? Because I don't want to
Yeah.
waste the action economy. Well, he'll just do this.
I'm
Yeah.
glad Fox did not attune to that ring.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
We are all.
Just
I wanna say, though-
ring for an hour.
why shouldn't I?
Mr. Frodo. yeah.
Why shouldn't I have it? It's mine.
Why shouldn't I disregard difficult terrain?
Which with the water eventually became a thing. But something that I
That's
do like about this final encounter, like in the whole session, was that I like that our only, because a lot of the times the trap that when I used to DM a lot more, which was like in high school, the only loss condition for the party was a TPK.
Yeah.
I like that we're super high level at this point. Like we're level 14.
Yeah.
A
15
TPK, like a TPK isn't going to happen. Like it can happen, but it's not going to happen.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult for it to happen. So the fact that it was like we have an objective we need to protect. There's all these layers to it. We have these threads. All the like that made the encounter way more fun and have more tension because it's like it's not just like, oh yeah, Alan might have 3/4 of his hit points, but that doesn't really matter it doesn't matter at all. If
Yeah.
Your
other
health is
things-
essentially
Yeah.
another resource.
Exactly,
I will say,
yeah.
like game theory wise, it helps a lot for players to engage
Yeah.
when it isn't just a selfish like I just have to stay alive.
Yeah.
It's more this is something you need to care about. This is something that, and it kind of forces you to reestablish your priorities, reevaluate. That's why I was 100% okay with Fox dying.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because the priority wasn't that we stay alive. The priority is we fix the world.
Save the world, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
save the world, I guess. And so that's
That moment, the save the world, I guess, was in my mind the Avengers standing around the time gate.
Yeah.
All taking a second, saying whatever it takes. Like we're crossing a threshold.
Yeah.
We've got our tasks. If we don't come back, like we're doing whatever it takes. This is the thing that has to happen.
I got the same scene from a different Marvel movie. I got the one in Guardians of the Galaxy where they're like, well, now we're all standing. It's a bunch of jerks standing in a circle.
I do want to say that, like, looking back at everything, there was a way I could have prevented Fox's death. And that is before, or like right before we lit the flare. I have the spell Death Ward prepared.
Oh.
And you didn't use it on anyone?
No.
I don't know why he's like, you could do it on anyone? No.
It was like a multiple characters in
Well,
the area, right?
It was, so no, it's one character.
Oh.
I thought it was a shorter time frame. I thought it was
interesting.
like a minute
it
or
was
something.
like
It's short. Yeah, gotcha.
And then I looked up the spell like after the fact, and it's like it lasts 8 hours.
Oh.
So I could have casted 4 times on all of us.
And you would have come back with 1 hit point.
Yeah.
Well, in
And then
character,
plummeted
Mortar
from
shell
up there
to
and
the
taken.
face?
yeah, the
Yeah.
fall damage would have killed. I think from a character perspective,
would've had a
though,
body.
if Zoth only recently learned this spell or has hardly ever casted it in universe, makes
Yeah.
sense because it's like, well, Zoth is like, I think like he's trying to conserve resources at that
Yeah.
point. Like I think this only lasts for this
Well,
amount of time, so I don't want to use it
I
right
think
away.
like optimal resource usage is so difficult when you don't really know what's going to happen in a fight.
yeah,
You know
Because
what?
like I ended that fight with so many resources
see.
available to me.
But yeah, it's, you just don't know. That's,
you
that's the thing.
also had like a character time skip. Normally, when you have
True.
a character and you live with them in small increments, getting new
Yeah.
things every once in a while throughout all those levels, you had Zoth down here,
Yeah.
and then you skipped all the way up here and had
Yeah.
all that stuff.
As a disorganized person in general, I'll say I had a ton of stuff. But to be fair, we did go through it right before that
I'm
session.
so proud of you for checking your pack.
Yeah. Well, and it was just like, man, a lot of this like was very utilitarian
Yeah.
picked at the time I picked it, and it just wasn't relevant in a
Yeah.
big fight.
It's kind of how I felt.
Like all my level 2 spells, like Cure Wounds, Healing Word, right, were healing spells, but I never had a chance to really like use
Yeah.
those. I was always there's something else that's a lot higher priority.
Yeah.
Featherfall, I think, is the only thing that maybe had to save a dying corpse
Yeah.
from being mutilated by
Yeah.
hitting the ground.
Yeah.
I think it's the only thing I did for Thrax and Hal. To be fair, maybe he has followers who are willing to revive him now that magic's back.
Maybe. You've been to his domain though.
I've been to his domain. Fairy Fire, Disguise Self, Tasha's like somewhat useful, but just in the moment, there's just better things to do.
I think from Alan's perspective, because this was the first combat where Alan got properly buffed by his teammates to
Yes.
actually be an effective barbarian.
Yeah.
So from Alan's perspective, like, wow, tactically we really came together. like this, we finally did it.
How did you were saying before the stream, you're like, we've spent the past week like with strategy after strategy. How did the combat line up with what you expected the enemies to be, and how did the strategies you used line up with what you were like, oh, this is the plan that will totally work for us?
So no plan ever survives contact with the enemy.
Right.
So
Yep.
I broke up the strategies into like bite-sized components
Yes.
that like so we could like
Which I think we used
now is the
almost all but one
situation
of
we'll
them.
fire off plan A. Now is the situation we'll like if this happens then this could be useful.
right.
The connecting and building of the machine is something I didn't anticipate. And so that kind of dropped us into a low key, we need to be like structural. And because I was anticipating like doing like prepping the dome, getting this spell, what is it? The Crown of Stars, and then casting Sunbeam.
Yeah.
And then just like layering like greater invisibility on Fox.
Yeah.
And then the Platinum Shield on Alan.
Yeah.
And, there was like all of these sort of things, but then it was like, nope, we got to move boxes. And I was like, oh dang! Like, do I just fire all these weapons off now? I don't. You do a thing sometimes that isn't bad, but it's like we've got a mini game, and then combat comes later, and when I'm trying to determine how long a spell is going to run, I don't know if firing it off and maintaining within that thing, if it will expire before the combat happens. So Mage Armor is a safe one because it's like 8 hours, but it's
Yeah.
like if I fire off a 10-minute spell and then we're like moving boxes and talking and it's like rounds, but then we like talk for a while, it's like, okay, well 10 minutes pass and I'm like, well, dang, all of that stuff is gone.
Yeah.
Right.
So I like had to wait till after that, and I was really glad. I actually preferred that Cheddar had to like invest the time to do a 10-round prep spell for that. I thought that was awesome.
It felt a lot more real when it was like you're in round 7 and bad guys start showing up, and you're like,
I
oh
got
wait, we have
3
to
more
protect the
rounds.
avatars, but we got to protect him.
Yeah.
And like that felt
Yeah.
really cool
So-
watching that moment.
Chris pointed out something that I need to make aware. It was like a spell misinterpretation.
Okay.
Once my plan with the dome
Yeah.
was to complete it was to make a med tent. Essentially,
Okay.
we were gonna like drop a bubble. Zoth could be in there, and then like we could like escape into it and heal up, or like evade attacks and then come out and attack, like a base of operation. I was thinking it was gonna be like somewhere else or whatever, but then when the machine came up, I was like, oh dang, this is even better. We can protect the machine.
Yeah.
Like that'll be great. And then you mentioned the threads of magic, and I was like, crap, this thing is
Yep.
gonna cut them off.
Yeah, I had to kind of compromise on like the rules of the world, but it
So-
was such a good plan that I was
Yeah.
like, I can't. The rule of cool won.
Well,
you know.
but the thing is like, all right, well, I guess we're just going back to the med tent. Let me read the spell and see how it works, just to be certain. And I read it, and when I read that spell, I was like, I don't know what happened, but my eyes saw the words "magic can go out, but not in." It does not say that. It cuts everything off. Like it should have severed, like zoom, the machine where it intersected and cut
You
off magic
manifested
in and out.
the text.
So, like, and I like even I thought that it would do that, and
Yeah.
I read the spell, and my eyes saw something different. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened with that.
That's funny.
So anyway,
I don't mind.
yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like a high pressure situation, and I think, yeah, like Josh said, the ruling at the table supported the narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's
It
I'll,
was still
I'll
an
fight.
extremely cool idea.
Yeah,
I'll fight every DM in the world on the idea that it is way more important to keep the game moving than it is to know the exact rule of a
Yep.
spell, especially spells, where every caster brings 6,000 of them to the table.
yeah.
Let them know their own spells, and if they make a mistake, let them feel guilty about it the next night. Don't worry about it, okay?
which I did. I was like, oh, I
To
mean,
be
it was
fair,
great, but I missed that one
It
up.
does run on the pseudo honor system of like, we expect you to just not blatantly
Yeah.
misinterpret on
Yeah, yeah,
purpose.
yeah,
And it's not, and like
we
you're saying,
trust
it's,
each other
it's not
here.
like you just were like, I'm going to make up a spell that works for me. Like when people play
Yeah.
chess and they're like, my bishop can totally go forwards.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just made a mistake. Whatever. People
Yeah.
make mistakes. I've
Yeah.
made so many mistakes. Like,
It was
Oh,
just
yeah.
hilarious to me because Chris brought it up, and I was like, I thought that you were right, but I looked it up and I read it, and then I pulled it up on my phone, and I was like, wait, what? Like I literally thought that, and then looked it up and read it wrong. Like,
Yep.
how does that even happen? Like I read the words,
Your
they were
brain
right there.
so desperately wanted it to be
I
the
guess.
other way.
yeah.
I guess.
I will say, with the ruling we worked with, it kind of sucked that we didn't build the machine with that in mind.
Like where it would have been more enclosed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty fun though watching you put the hut up and then one of the dudes is in there and you're like, well, we've got 5 feet to walk around and one of those
Yep.
feet is like a bad guy
Gotta push him out.
stuck
Gotta kill him.
inside.
Well, so the rushing emergency with that was like there's airstrikes happening.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, we can move. It can't. I was like I don't have it. Even if it's poor, I don't have another option. Like it's just there. We have to do that.
I mean, without it, we probably would have lost. Like
Yeah,
way
it
sooner.
could have been targeted again by an airstrike. Yeah.
What? All right. You know what upset me? When Laredith made a big deal about like we gotta draw the circle right now, and the second we go about it, and then the things touch, we didn't even draw the circle yet, and then it gets flooded, and it would have not mattered because
It was-
wet, and it would have like so we could have left that up, and not had a shell drop directly on it.
Oh.
It was
I will find and categorize every single moment in this session that killed Fox.
It was so funny to me that that's what happened because what Laredith said was not right now. She said next we need to. Like, because the whole thing was that she and Jeb were in the hut and Jeb was like, okay, what can I do to help? What's happening?
Right,
And so
right.
she just turned to him and was like, okay, well, the next thing we're going to need to do once the threads are anchored is we're going to need to draw the thing. But there's 2 threads not anchored yet. And Jeb's like, great, let's draw it. And like drops the thing. And it just is, in the pressure, you hear things wrong
Yep.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Heat of battle.
But then it really made me laugh when it was like, well, I guess, Christian's like, well, if it's an open, airstrike it. When the 3 threads were anchored, the threads were going to provide some protection from the airstrikes. There was going to be essentially part of the machine that Laredith had built was going to siphon like a little shield that just had extra HP in it. So like the first 2 airstrikes or whatever might get absorbed before it hits the thing.
Right.
Interesting.
But yeah, it just worked out in a really interesting way at the
Yeah.
table where I was like, oh no. And then Fox taking the hit, I was like, shoot, Fox is going to blame Laredith or Wash. I'm not sure who yet, but one of them not going to be
I
good.
guess I didn't even make the connection that we didn't have the other 2 tethers. Like I thought that they were solidified.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I think we were like, what
They
it
weren't
was
anchored.
is the moment you were talking about it, we were still down to the last one not being anchored, and it was
Interesting.
Zatonia.
Zatonia failing.
Yeah.
She failed once and then fell off the cliff.
Yep.
Yeah, it needed to be replaced on the cliff there.
And it was
Interesting.
in the between her falling and whatnot, that's when the shell got called. So I think if she had succeeded, we actually would have been a little okay.
Yeah.
I think
Because after that, no more shells would be coming because then the flood happened, and then they're just like, well, I guess we actually got to help 4 guys.
So, should we do the Nemmys next or ask the GM next? What's your opinion?
I like thinking the Nemmys is going to be fun for the people
Sure.
to watch.
Okay, let's do it.
And then we'll probably have questions from that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jake, do you want to give us like a little opening monologue for the
Sure.
Nemmys?
Give me my music when you're ready. Hello, and welcome to the silliest night in all of D&D. I am your host. Well, I'm not actually your host. I'm just the announcer, Jake, and I am here to celebrate. Who am I celebrating? The players, the characters, the audience, the GM,
The quote bot.
the quote bot of the epic campaign taking place in the world of Urada the last 3 years. Join us as this culmination of 3 years of laughing, crying, playing, and just enjoying being around friends comes to a conclusion. Or will it?
Viewers, your attention is drawn to a large stage with a silken gold curtain behind it. Out onto the stage walks a small plant-like creature with kind of curling thorns and branches coming out of the top of his head. A little business tie around his neck. No suit or anything. He's just a little plant creature, but a little tie, a little necktie. And he steps up to the microphone and some spores float around his head. And then a few moments later, you see someone else run out on stage, like in a, all black and a little headset, and they like kind of whisper in his ear and take him off to the side of the stage. And instead, I arrive, your GM, your humble GM, Josh, to host and welcome you to the Nemmys. We're here to celebrate. We're here to remember, just like our voiceover artist said, who we didn't pay. Thanks for volunteering your time.
I sent the invoice.
This exposure will be great for you. We'll be opening the night by celebrating the player characters. And so, let's begin with the nominees for the Player Character Employee of the Campaign Award for the 4 Guys Ventures and Vibes staff. Nominees this year are FP62, Bruiser, Gunner, and Clara Albuquerque. However, the Nemmy for 4 Guys Ventures and Vibes Employee of the Campaign, played by a player character, goes to Clara Albuquerque. Clara, would you like to say a few words?
Speech.
I have also sent in my invoice. I have not been paid. Did you guys get rid of the dire wolf just so that we'd still have food left afterwards? He ate so much.
My fanfare button's not working. There's nothing to celebrate here. Just kidding.
The food store's dried up.
I know. How could this have happened? How could this happen?
Can you come on stage for a speech? Guys, I haven't been paid. We're running out of food. I haven't been able to talk to anyone. Please, this is my only
They
way.
play you out. The next Nemmy for most character growth had 4 nominees. They are predictably Zothkug, Fox, Jeb, and Owlin. And the Nemmy for the most character growth in this first campaign goes to Fox. An incorporeal form floats onto the stage.
Wow. Thank you. I don't know how to feel about this.
We love you, Fox.
Oh, thank you. Part of me is really happy to be winning something, but part of me feels like maybe like what did I grow from? What are you trying to say? Huh? You saying I was worse before? Huh? Hey, I'm not done yet. No, you can't drag me away.
The next Nemmy for Best Owlin Invention had 3 nominees. They were the automatic toothbrush, the mountain climbing machine, and boxer briefs. And the winner for
It's clear.
best Owlin invention is boxer briefs.
Yeah.
Do boxer briefs show up on stage, or does Owlin?
There's just a brief moment where the stage is left empty. and then the voiceover comes back in. The Nemmy for best Trevor character tragic backstory had 3 nominees. First, Zothkug was a runt who was bullied for being a pacifist and being smaller than the other orcs in his tribe.
Oh.
Second, Bruiser was a slave who escaped an abusive traveling carnival.
Oh.
It feels bad to that because that's really
And
sad.
third, Zopf had to work a government desk job. And the winner for the nominee of Best Trevor Character Tragic Backstory in a landslide was Zopf had to work a government desk job. Zopf, would you like to come up here and cry a bit?
I don't know why I'm getting this award. I like the job that I do in the company.
Everybody's crying for him right now in the audience. Like, he actually loves the company. Oh, God, it's so bad.
The Nemmy for most outstanding guest character has 5 nominees. As they are guest characters, here to accept them on their behalf, we have Radford the White, kind of walks out on stage. The nominees were Savage Tempest, the bounty hunter, Vondal Frostbeard, the dwarven acolyte of Satonia, Vokaruz, the black dragon, Makar Pedrin, the childhood friend of Owlin, and Clara Doughgirl Albuquerque. And the winner of most outstanding guest character is Clara Doughgirl Albuquerque.
A winner of 2 Nemmys.
2 Nemmys, your first awards circuit. Bradford, do you want to say a few words on Clara's behalf?
It's just like in the audience.
Off to the side going, they still haven't paid me.
I mean, she's fantastic. She's worth every penny we paid her.
The Nemmy for Best Rod Attunement Puzzle had 6 nominees.
Okay.
Jeb's Attunement to the Rod of Intelligence, Jeb's Attunement to the Rod of Luck, Zothkug's Attunement to the Rod of Wisdom, Fox's Attunement to the Rod of Charisma, Owlin's Attunement to the Rod of Intelligence, and Bruiser's Attunement to the Rod of Dexterity. And the winner for Best Rod Attunement is Fox, attuning to the Rod of Charisma.
That was
Really? So good.
Wow, okay.
Speech.
I mean, I had a fun time. It was, you know, you're in the moment and you're just like, man, I got to attune to this thing. And then you're attuning and you're like, wow, this thing is basically me. it was really fun, guys. I really appreciate it. You know, I'm the winner of 2 nominees now.
This is outrageous. How come you guys didn't like sitting in a corner rolling dice until we like stopped going blind? What is going on?
I'll be fair. I did vote for that one. You know,
I got you. I appreciate that, bud.
It's okay.
I need a recount.
I love the idea that it's just the 4GAP staff who are at the awards show yelling out at each other. Now for the NPC category of the Nemmys. NPC Employee of the Campaign for 4 Guys staff goes to, actually, I think this was a player character NPC, but that's okay. The nominees were Mr. Prophecy, Yeah the Myconid, Randy Mig McHale, Mockery, and Ronald the Intern, the Manager, the Intern. And the winner of the NPC Employee of the Campaign is Ronald the Intern, the Manager, the Intern.
Hey, I'm just here on my lunch break. I got the coffee for everyone. What is this you're handing me? I was told to be here.
He has a player behind him. That doesn't count.
I sent.
The system's rigged. They put him in the wrong category so he'd win.
I sent my invoice to you
In
guys.
the biz, we call this category fraud.
And the nominees for Best NPC Ally are Elaine Mollusk, Tactus the Unyielding, Shale of the Grey Watch, Salin, Queen of Gyme, Onions, Jeb's cousin, and Circles, who we now know is named Raisha. And the winner for Best NPC Ally is Tactus the Unyielding.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt.
The stage sits empty for about 3 moments of sad
Moment of
silence.
silence.
A
The
moment of
nominees for Best Avatar are the 4 avatars who were alive: Garlel, Larodith, Satonia, and Kay. And the winner of Best Avatar is Larodith.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Didn't we have the most time with her?
I am so honored to have received this prestigious award. I live somewhere in a void between life and death now, but it is fantastic that I will bring this award there with me. And then she kind of phases back out of the stage.
There's like a few girls on the side who are like, "We love you, Garlel." Gotten it.
Just a top hat like tips out from behind the curtain. And the nominees for most intimidating named villain are Mavira, Makar Pedrin, Sir Topham Sav, Countess Alex Greenvale, and Kyvan. And the winner for most intimidating named villain is Kyvan.
It's a strong name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already knew this. The Red Shirt Award for the quickest killed NPC had 3 nominees. That guard who very briefly held the Rod of Luck at Thraxenhaus Domain. Circles, who we now know is named Raisha, and the Minstrel King. And the winner of the Red Shirt Award is that guard who very briefly held the Rod of Luck at Thraxenhaus Domain. The camera cuts away to a gravestone with a little trophy sitting on top of it before it cuts back to the awards.
I'll be honest, I voted for him because I don't remember him.
That scene was so good.
It was.
We just got the Rod of Luck, and it just zoops off to this dude.
He lived longer than we thought, but not long enough.
We now
true.
move
That's what it says on
into
his
the
headstone.
Meta
Yeah.
Awards.
Ooh,
The meta category.
brought to you by Facebook.
The nominees for the funniest scene were Zothkug's Grand Hat Purchase,
Classic.
Zothkug and Owlin's Sewer Repelling Safety Club,
Both here for different reasons.
FP62 breaks the plumbing at the Private Security Goons Gala,
Anxiety
This is
attack.
boring.
Gunner impersonates a verticulator technician,
Hey.
the meeting of Dr. Dewey and Owlin,
Oh.
the orc bully telling Fox you're gonna catch these hands. The purchase and then return of Ruffleshoe.
Always
Hope
live on
it
in my
comes
heart.
out peacefully and quietly. Fox and Jeb go deaf from an explosion.
Classic.
And Dylan, the planes are converging from the season 1 finale. But the winner of the funniest scene by vote of our chatters and players is the purchase and return of Ruffleshoe.
Yeah.
The ghost of Gunner goes, recency bias.
The salesperson who sold and then received Ruffleshoe again walks onto the stage.
Hello, are you here for Ruffle stuff? I got a pamphlet. It's in my back. Bread by the finest stuff. Oh no, it's got wet. $10 going once, going
This
twice.
is not
sold
an
to me.
auction.
I bought it. Woo! Where's the snack?
The nominees for most likely to make you cry: Wash, Trevor, Cleo, Jake, and Josh. And the winner
Josh makes me cry all
of
the time.
most likely to make you cry is Wash.
Clear winner. Clear
Yeah.
winner.
So many times.
Carries these emotional moments so well.
This was an accurate award.
The nominees for Best Improvised NPC, whom the DM did not know would need to be improvised in the moment, are Dr. Dewey, Rufflestuff's Keeper, and the Orc Bully at the Umbral Sea Barracks. But the winner of Best Improvised NPC in a landslide vote was Rufflestuff's Keeper.
Why are you pushing me back out? Huh? What?
He's like handed the thing and shoved back off the stage
What?
immediately.
Coming back to get the pony.
I just came back with a boat. Bye.
The nominees for most intense scene: Parachuting with Kay, Rescuing Laredith and Jeb's sacrifice in the Umbral Sea.
Yeah.
Rescuing Laredith and Fox's sacrifice at the Umbral Sea when his leg was cut off. Escaping the dark side in the season 1 finale. Fighting the first Shadow Warrior on the catwalk in Stainless.
That was very
And
intense.
Zothkug's Revivify machine failing in Gaim. We have a 3-way tie. As the GM, I will break the tie and then read the honorable mentions.
Okay.
And so the winner for the most intense scene in our entire campaign is the moment that Zothkug's Revivify machine failed.
Yeah.
And my monitor was unplugged from HDMI by the table rattling. Do you think you could reach over, Trevor, and plug this HDMI cable back in? I have no idea what's happening on the stream. Unless my computer is off, but it's not because we're hearing music.
You look good. You look good.
Where's the
You look fine.
You look good, kid.
You look good, sweetie.
Oh. In the monitor.
That's where the HDMI cable.
That's where the cable goes,
One of
buddy.
the cables under the table.
It was just such an exuberant.
Although we have lost the stream video now.
Uh-oh.
We got a black screen.
Is it bad?
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please.
Do we
stay
still have
tuned.
audio?
Is the stream still going?
It is still.
Yes, we're still
streaming.
live.
Just no video.
Yeah, it's just a black screen.
And we still have audio.
Chat, we'll be right back. I'm going to cut the stream and start it again. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please enjoy these brief sponsored advertisements.
Have you ever wanted a pony? Now you can get one too.
Okay, I ended the stream. I'm going to start a new
How
version
to
of the
get
stream.
rich by selling the same pony multiple times.
Do you accept NFBs?
I don't know. I
See
don't
if
even know what those
that
are.
works. I just restarted the stream. Chat, are we back? Are we back? The drum roll was so hardcore that we broke the world. Which is really a shame because we just spent 3 years fixing it.
These things happen.
The next adventure,
We are
stopping
back.
the
We
constant.
back?
I believe so. I'm getting an ad right now, but I saw a belief
belief.
glimpse.
I saw a belief glimpse.
Beliefs Grimps.
Belief grimps.
Belief grips.
That's a good quote.
We are back. And you missed how to buy a pony.
Tell me when your ad break ends, Jake, so that I
Yeah, I'll
can
let you know.
reasonably assume so did theirs.
Brie Larson is telling me why I need to get a Nissan.
Why do you need to get a Nissan?
Because Brie Larson's in one, and Brie Larson seems kind of cool.
I was
You
like,
said
have
it
a
like when
Hyundai
people say
ad.
Brie Larson's in that movie. Like, Brie Larson's in a Nissan.
Yeah, we're back and we have video.
Great. We're
Nice.
sorry for those brief technical difficulties. Those responsible for the technical production of this stream have been sacked.
Oh God.
these things happen.
The
As far as I understand it, Alan is responsible for all brief technical difficulties.
That's right. You are so correct.
thing
Okay,
he's in neutral
so
now.
the 3-way tie. Did they hear the tiebreaker? I'll say it again. The tiebreaker that I cast as DM for most intense scene was no drumroll, please. The failing of Zothkug's Revivify machine in Gaim. However, we must honorably mention all 3 of our tied winners from the players' votes. They are rescuing Laredith when Jeb makes a sacrifice in the Umbral Sea,
Yeah.
rescuing Laredith when Fox loses a leg, and Zothkug's Revivify machine failing.
yeah.
Those were all.
I
intense.
honestly, I felt like Jeb being lost way overshadowed losing a leg. I was like, losing a leg's not even up there.
Like that.
That was for me,
scene
yeah.
where Jeb got enslaved was like intense.
Yeah.
But the aftermath of you guys afterwards.
Oh, I didn't think
was
about that. Like I'm being
like
dragged,
those two
firing a
sandwiched
bow.
together
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
pinnacle for me.
Yeah.
That was some of the peak like combat role playing that
Yeah.
I've seen, like
Yeah.
character development during a fight. Loved that. I mean, it was sad, but like
Yeah.
loved watching the scene.
We loved your
The
suffering.
week
Love that
gap
sad-
between those were like 3 sessions, kind of all back to back. The week gap between the first one and the second one was crazy for
Yeah.
me. Like it was just like I'm thinking about it the whole time.
The nominees for best non-verbal roleplay moment in our campaign are
Ooh.
Josh lowering his chair to look up at the skittering horror in the one where Forgav was away, Jake stirring soup for 15 minutes of other people's dialogue in the one where
Yep.
FP learns about plumbing, Cleo raising her hood in the rain or the dark in every episode with the rain and the dark, and Wash getting as close as possible to the camera while sharing an air bubble with Cleo in
was
the
really
one where
funny.
they meet Kavor. And the winner of best non-verbal roleplay moment, we'll do snaps. It'll be like, there we go, is Wash getting as close as possible to the camera while sharing an air bubble with Kavor.
Very nice.
Wash, will you get as close as possible to the camera from where you're sitting and share an air bubble with the crowd? I'm just kidding. Oh no, he's gonna go around.
It smells really. It smells really good up here. Oh my god! It's just really close. Don't get away from me.
The nominees for best inside joke / recurring bit of our campaign are I Hardly Know Her, Operation Blank, Jury Nullification, Screwing Up the Player Intros where they say their own names that they've had for their whole lives. Trevor is playing in 28,050,027 campaigns.
All those campaigns.
Cleo orders
They're
food
great, man.
during the session. Cleo forgets to open her character sheet.
I feel like there's a lot of
Cleo
Cleos in
doesn't
here.
know what's in her inventory.
The odds are in your favor.
Birthday cake thieves can't.
Oh.
Zothkug changing color. Fox eating all the desserts out of his rations. Gunner keeps blowing up the heists. And the winner of the best inside joke and recurring bit is Birthday Cake Thieves Can.
Yeah.
A callback
Classic.
all
That's
the
a
way
classic.
to Tumbleweb in
Yeah.
season 1.
That
We
one
haven't
had
done it
staying
for a
power.
while though.
Oh yeah. Like I was ready for the birthday.
Yeah.
And it was gonna happen. The candles were lit. It was a good time.
Someone comes out on stage to accept the award, but everything they say is just like in Thieves Can't.
Thank you for this piece of cake. I would have never had a birthday without this.
When's your birthday?
And the nominees for best
for you to know.
reveal moment of the campaign
reveal.
were Elaine Mollusk turns out to be an ally. That moment when we all thought the King of Udril would be super intimidating and instead he was a total bro. When Shale and Willow were images conjured by the Aboleths and Fox was being
that
lured
got me,
deeper
yeah.
into their dungeon. When Makar turned out to have become a villain in Alan's absence. That Tinkali Scorpion guy who
to
turned
see it.
out to be so honorable.
Yo, he was cool.
Zothkug is alive. And
was
Sir
upset.
Topham Sav interrupts the intro video to cuss out Four Guys Ventures and
That was
Vampires.
Way
awesome.
off guard.
And the winner in a landslide for best reveal, Zothkug is alive.
Yeah.
So funny thing about the TSAV cutting in, I had muted your screen share. So like
I remember.
I saw him like come through and it was just like, and I was like, wow, what's going on? I guess Josh really messed up like capturing the Discord audio or something. And I was like, oh, we're going to goof. And then everyone was like, that was epic. And I was like, no, it was me. I was
I'm the problem, it's
yeah,
me.
it was me.
I will say, I think what surprised me more about Zoth's death is knowing the DM and knowing, like, you hate revivification with a passion.
I do. I want death to matter.
Yeah, and- which is fair. Like, in a normal, like, by the book, D&D standard, regular magic and all that, like, revivification is just like, oh, you died, whoopsie, and you're back. And so we've handled death pretty well and revivification pretty well in this, but, like, just to still be like, yeah, he's dead. And you made us go through a whole mini game to confirm he's dead and unrevivable. And then to just be like, yeah, he's just chilling, smoking apple cats, having a good time. That surprised me.
The nominees for best minigame were the Revivify Machine in
Speaking
Gaia,
of.
Yep.
Minecraft Racing, Airship
Classic.
Building at the Sunset House in Thraxenhaus
Awesome.
Domain.
Can't forget it.
Owlin's Climbing Machine in
Yeah.
Thraxenhaus Domain.
Can't forget it.
And the winner for the best minigame of our campaign is, in a landslide, Minecraft Racing.
That was so fun.
That was so
when-
much fun.
It was not only like dynamically, mechanically interesting, like the pacing of it
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah.
awesome. Like it felt like a tight Mario Kart
Now I
race.
want
Yeah,
a clean, dirty race.
That's right. That's right.
And the amount of money that we gained from the
Yeah.
completely illegal bet that Fox and Jeb made.
There were no laws about betting on yourself.
Yeah,
What are you
well,
talking
no,
about?
I know. I mean, like in the U.S., it would be
yeah.
illegal to bet that way.
That's funny.
It's a good thing we were in Urida.
Yeah, exactly. Also, it forced Alan to work through some of his Makar trauma because he wanted
Yeah.
to creatively help the game, but every time he made an artificer roll, he would have to roll
Yeah.
roll to trauma.
Roll to trauma.
Yep.
The nominees
Roll
for the
the trauma.
best caper in our arc called No Mole Left Behind are the Umbral Sea, the Private Security Goons Gala, the Lower West Side Warehouse of Stainless,
That did happen.
the University Clock Tower,
That one was fun.
Summit Tower, and the Book of Exalted
We don't
Deeds.
talk about Summit Tower. Okay?
What tower?
Yeah.
And the winner for best
Literally.
caper in a tight race is Summit Tower.
Yeah.
Summit Tower, by 1 vote, outpaced the Private Security Goons Gala.
They were both really good.
The Gala was
They were
going
so
to win.
good.
They were both really good.
Yeah.
They were,
That's
and
fair.
I was confident that it was going to be one of those two, even though my personal favorite was the Lower West Side Warehouse. The first fight with a shadow creature that you
That
all
was
had
really
was
intense.
just so intense for me. I was like, wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
But you can't, live down killing an aboleth, blowing up a central tower.
No, that's fair.
Representing
That's fair.
like the city's,
And that's where
accomplishments.
there was like the reviving Jeb and like, is that going to work? And there was the verticulator maintenance.
Yep.
There was a lot of
Oh, yeah.
things happening
That's
in that
true.
one for sure.
Yeah.
But that Gala was just
The Gala
so
was good.
Yeah.
Gala was so good.
I think
classy.
Once more in defense of the warehouse fight, that was also the first session where I feel like we all understood the usefulness of oceans and
Yeah.
creatively
Yes.
using them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 It took us like a session to
Yeah.
get
So
into
that
it.
was such a fun mechanic.
Yeah, I agree.
The nominees for Best Game Full Stop / Off the Rails Moment are The Purchase and Return of Rufflesham. Josh said he didn't like cherry tomatoes that one time, and everything came to a halt as the
I
players
apologize.
protested. Cleo falling out of her chair during some scene that we
I
can't
don't
remember what the
apologize.
scene was. Zothkug saying, I never got your note during what was otherwise a very emotional scene leading into a combat. Fox tells a dragon to touch grass sometimes. And
Classic.
Josh tries to say brazier and says brazier. And the winner in a very tight race, this was divided heavily between all of the options.
Oh, wow.
But the winner for best off the rails moment is Josh tries to say brazier and says brazier.
Yeah.
1 vote behind in second place is the Purchase and Return of Ruffleshump, and 1 vote behind that is every other option. That's how close it was.
Wow.
The
Amazing.
nominees for Best Cleocabulary are Remember, Prestidigitits, Jitnazis, What Have I Managed to Done, and Wiggity Woom, I Am Wearing New Clothes. And the winner of the Best Cleocabulary is Wiggity Woom, I Am Wearing New Clothes.
I don't even remember what I was trying to say.
When was that said?
You were that was during one of the heists. You were changing.
It was with the orc bully, right?
Fox's clothes to
Or-
be
yeah.
something different, and you were just trying to make a sound effect
For your like glamour armor.
Wiggity boom! I was the only one who was like, I need to pause us and talk about the word womb in this context.
Amazing.
The nominees for Best Action Scene in the campaign. Battling Makar on the open hills of Udril.
That was
That's a good
such a
one.
cool
Great.
fight.
Fighting the Aboleths during Fox's rescue.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Fighting the shadow creatures on the catwalk.
Yep.
That was the one in the Iron Tomb.
Yep.
Bruiser catching Fox mid-air at Summit
So
Tower
epic.
on his way to revive a dead Jeb while
As
a tower
you do.
collapsed on top of them.
Yep.
Just a normal Tuesday.
And the winner of Best Action Scene is Bruiser catching Fox
Yeah.
mid-air at Summit Tower.
It's because of those options, I voted for that because it's like I don't know if this is gonna work.
Oh yeah.
Like,
My favorite category, maybe in the entire Nemmys. The nominees for Best Fall. Leaping a mile off of a cliff in the Underdark.
I mean, you can't go away with
classic.
the original.
Jeb
right?
reversing gravity in the fight with Makar Pedrin. A T-Rex falling while engaged in battle with a death kiss.
As one does.
As you do.
Owlin plunging off of Geyser Falls near Norwood shortly after saying, I hope we don't have to go down there. Skydiving with Kay. And falling in the scout battle in Geim when Owlin was super injured.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Raging saved you.
We
I
have
think.
another
Yeah.
three-way tie
Oh,
for Best
wow.
Fall. So I will break the
Oh.
tie and then read the honorable mentions.
All right.
The winner of Best Fall is Jeb reversing gravity
Yeah.
in the fight with
Classic.
Makar
Deserved.
Pedrin.
Yeah.
You can
Honorable
fall.
mentions to Leaping a Mile Off a Cliff in the Underdark,
Yep.
the OG
Classic.
Fall,
Classic.
and falling in the Scout Battle in Geim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was intense.
That one felt like an anime fight.
Yeah.
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 chasing them up the walls and
Exactly.
then that was
Our
really
fight
cool.
also felt like an anime fight.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of our fights felt like anime
That's
fights.
Which is
true.
good. That's a good thing to
I
emulate.
have never felt more powerful playing D&D than the moment that Alan went down and then I attacked him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole mood
Yeah.
shifted.
The whole
And
people's
I-
eyes got as wide as dinner plates.
And I still live on that moment today. When I'm feeling down, I'm like, don't worry. I can make everybody
Don't
sad.
worry, you wrecked Alan that one time. Don't
is-
worry.
Chris is chasing that high, trying to wait for that next
That's why
moment.
you
I'm
play
ready,
the
I'm
lieutenant.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
We move now into the quotes section.
Oh,
No.
I'm excited for this.
Uh-oh.
What?
Can you all still hear?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just my battery.
Oh, I was like,
Again.
My battery for my headphones died. I was like,
so you can't hear.
yeah, but everything's still working. So just enjoy the fanfare for a brief moment while I switch batteries.
I love fanfare.
During this brief intermission.
You know, I just think it's fair.
Really? I'm not
Yeah.
a fan of it.
No, you're not a fan? No?
I kind of was like in the moment, so I said I was, but I
enjoy
actually
this
wasn't.
improv comedy from the group.
This stream brought to you by fans at a fair
Today at
price.
Fanfare Fans, we have our fan favorite fan, the fanfare.
I'm back.
Hi, I'm a fan.
Hi. We move into the quotes section of the Nemmy Awards.
All right.
I'm excited for this one.
Best Trevor
some good
quote
ones.
in the quote bot. The nominees were, do you actually have tall people zoos? This whole dungeon is a bad thing.
Yes.
4 girls, solitary loathing.
Classic.
Classic.
It's like a Twinkie, indestructible. Skin grafts are the hot new commodity. And ice is basically wood.
Yeah, basically.
The winner of Best Trevor quote in the quote bot. It's like a Twinkie, indestructible.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truer words have never been said.
They're going to survive us all.
The nominees for Best Wash quote in the quote bot.
Oh, I'm ready.
In my defense, I didn't think about it. How would your blood not working if it even gets chilly? We've got some adventure funk on us.
Yep. I think I see the DM's favorite. Can't even say it.
The hat is the kneecap of the leg.
There's layers to that one.
there's layers.
There are limits to infinite power.
Most likely to make you cry.
Yeah, most likely to make you cry. Why?
Wouldn't gray just be dark clear?
I mean, that's a good argument.
This is a 4-way tie.
There are too many good ones.
Which I will break. I'll do the runners up and then the winner.
Oh,
So the
okay.
runners up, the honorable mentions here are, in my defense, I didn't think about it.
Yep.
Ah, yeah,
How
that's a
would
good
your
one.
blood not working if it even gets chilly? Wouldn't gray just be dark clear? And the winner, the hat is the kneecap of the leg.
Classic.
Yeah.
The nominees for best
I use that quote
Cleo
all the
quote
time in my
the
resume.
quote bot.
Best Cleo quote.
Best Cleo quote in the quote bot
Oh, boy.
are,
Here we go. How bad is it?
we're going to do a little correcting of the truth. You can't stop me from ruining my potential.
You can't.
Second of all, I have no other retort. The 4 elements: goat, dirt, rock, wheat. After I've done the deed, I too get the zoomies.
If that one's not the best, it's the most relatable.
I want to know the context for that one.
You don't need it. All right, that's the whole point of the quote bot, right?
True.
If it helps you sleep, the voice in your head is a broom. And the winner for best Cleo quote in the quote bot is, you can't stop me from ruining my potential.
You can't.
It's a classic.
I am unstoppable. I will ruin my potential.
We know.
The nominees for best Jake quote in the quote bot.
Let's go.
Once we get in there, if we need to extract anything, I'll blow it up and extract it. I'm ambidextrous, but not like with writing and stuff.
Natural.
Oh, man.
Life is about settling for the things you make. He said I have a point. I don't know what about, but I agree. The bigger they gun, the harder they gun.
True.
I don't like anything you said for the last long time.
Ouch.
This is a 3-way tie.
Oh, man.
The runners up are, he said I have a point. I don't know what about, but I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And the bigger they gun, the harder they gun.
Gun a gun.
The winner is, I don't like anything you've said for the last long time.
Oh man,
That was to Josh.
I like you're like, I remember.
I remember.
I think I was setting one of our intense fight scenes like exposition, right? Yeah. The nominees for best Josh quote in the quote bot are,
Here we go.
let's go.
first rule of Circle Club is be there or be square. What will be was been. The T pose is the universal sign of consent.
I think there's some unintentional layers in that.
The Romans had a way harder time calling 911 than we do.
That's true. They did.
Love covers a multitude of vibes. War breakfast is best breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And the winner of best Josh quote in the quote bot is, the Romans had a way harder time calling 911 than we do.
Somebody call IXII.
The nominees for best location,
Oh.
Tumbleweb, Udril, The Northern Wilds,
They were wild.
Gaim, Stainless, Hembly Who,
Rust 3, yeah.
the Citadel of the Order of the Exalted Ring,
Very long name.
and Fladena.
Who is that?
But the winner of the Nemmy for best location is Gaim.
Yep.
Gaim
nice.
was really well developed.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Probably second to Tumbleweb.
There were just
I think
like
Udril's my
layers to
second.
it.
Yeah,
Like onions?
Like onions.
Like
Udril took
ogres.
second
Or
place,
ogres. Yeah.
if you're
Udril-
interested.
Yeah,
Udril came in second.
I think I voted for Udril. Yeah.
Udril,
nice.
I think, in my opinion, was really cool. Just the
Yeah.
idea of like these like clans working together and yeah.
I like the character in Udril, but I think the actual location of Gaim we really fleshed out.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of the quote still. I'm still stuck on Wiggity Woom. I'm wearing new clothes. The nominees for best lair/dungeon: The Dark Site Beneath Tumbleweb,
Very cool.
Mikar's Labyrinth and the Thief King's Keep,
Yeah,
the
we had to fight
Eos
each
Lore
other.
Foundation Tower,
Yep.
the
Yeah,
Umbral
fell.
Sea Facility,
Yep.
It was under
the
the sea.
Abandoned City of No Wood,
There's no
Summit
wood there.
Tower in
Yeah.
the City of Stainless, Kyvan's Lair,
Spooky.
the
cool.
airship
Spooky.
Franken City with the Lonely Sorrowsworn,
That was
so
cool.
lonely.
and Kavor's Territory. But the winner
We were
of the
there.
Nemmy for best lair/dungeon is the Umbral Sea Facility.
Uh-huh.
It
Yeah.
was a close race with 3 other ones tied for second place.
Oh,
They were
wow.
the Eos Lore Foundation Tower,
classic.
Summit Tower, and Kyvan's
Oh,
Lair.
I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Umbral Sea facility was when
That was the Orc Bully.
that was the orc bully, but that also had like you guys were running for the batteries.
Yeah.
And then like Jeb blows up one of them with a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And you're
Yep.
like, the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to do a special shout out to Makar's dungeon because
Yes,
that was
that's
the
what I voted for.
the experience of crawling that dungeon and trying to get to the objective was the most fun at that point that I had dungeon crawling in a long time, and so that was like, oh, dungeon crawling can be fun if it's done right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So yeah.
The nominees for best neutral NPC in our campaign are
What makes an NPC?
Dr. Dewey, the Jester of Udril, Duffin the Traveling Merchant,
Classic.
Lonnie, the Innkeeper
Lonnie.
and Map Collector of Hemblyhoo,
Oh, Lon.
Eleazar the Tailor,
Ah, he be
Mazel the
tailing.
Measle, Andromeda
Measles.
the Silver Star. But the winner for best neutral NPC in a landslide is Duffin, the
Nice.
traveling merchant.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
He's got everything.
There's nothing.
There's
Duffin
nothing
can't
Duffin
find.
can't find you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
The nominees for funnest accent and vocal quirk:
Funnest.
Verticulator
Oh, boy.
Maintenance Jake, Radford the White,
Oh.
Rumpelstump's keeper / pamphlet guy,
Yeah.
Mockery,
I'm biased.
Jeb's
Mockers.
various sentient helper objects,
Oh yeah.
Clara Albuquerque, and Gunner. And in a landslide, the winner for funnest accent and vocal quirk is Radford the White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a little
Deserved.
Radford.
Speech.
I didn't think I was going to come up here and actually accept something for myself, but I just want to say you're a bunch of goofballs and I love you so much, and thanks for letting me be a part of this cool thing. Woo! Yeah! Good answer. Good answer. Also, I may be drunk.
The nominees for best GM voice / character accent are Kay, Mockery, Lonnie, Shadow Walker, Tavor, Thraxenhow, and Andromeda.
Did the broom not make the cut?
I mean, Shadow Walker, Broom.
Shadow Walker Light.
I think at the time that I made this, we maybe hadn't like really fleshed out the Broom's voice or anything yet. Yeah, so those were the nominees. There's a 3-way tie, so I'll announce 2 runners up and I'll break the tie. The runner-ups are Mockery
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I like
Thraxenhow. But the winner for best GM voice and character accent is Shadow Walker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
so funny.
to thank the Academy.
I love hearing the DM's voice.
You trying to use Shadow Walker as a crutch? Shadow Walker, no crutch.
I know, Crutch. Let's do it. Glory for battle for glory.
Kill.
For Nemmys.
Why aren't you using me to kill them?
The nominees for biggest dice betrayal.
Yep.
FP accidentally breaking into the water main during the gala heist.
Unfortunately.
This is
That's a
boring.
big one.
Riley spontaneously being possessed by an aboleth.
Things happen.
Owlin getting instantly hammered on unholy volcano. Radford and Mockery trying to fight those 2 guards in what should have been a very quick and inconsequential combat at the base of Thraxenhouse Mountain.
Yeah.
And the winner of biggest dice betrayal is FP62,
Yep.
accidentally breaking into the water main during the gala heist.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
I was like, I'm looking for an access hatch into the air conditioning. You find a water main on the wall and start unbolting it.
That's a 1. The nominees for sweetest, most tear-jerky type moments.
My favorite kind of jerky.
Jeb reassuring Annabelle Orchid when her father was kidnapped in Tumbleweb.
Aw.
Jeb sharing about Violet's death. Zothkug healing the girl in the wheelchair. And Clara connecting with Synthoid FP62.
Those are tasty snacks.
And the winner of the sweetest, most tear-jerky moment in our campaign. Jeb sharing about Violet's
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Definitely
Yeah.
deserved.
The
100%.
nominees for most traumatic experience.
Here we go.
Fox wading into a river of dissected merfolk bits. Owlin experiencing his childhood flashback at the Eos Lore Foundation Tower.
That was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good.
Jeb tortured by the aboleths with memories of his daughter.
Oh,
Discovering that Do Bumblefoot was dead.
rip that guy.
Fox losing a leg. Fox waking up from the aboleth enslavement thinking Shale and Willow were with him when they weren't. Owlin discovering Makar was a traitor all along. Zothkug dying.
Yep.
Jeb having to make the call to cut off Laredith's wings.
Yeah.
And the winner of most traumatic experience, the death of Zothkug.
Yep,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
It was completely unwarranted. Like, just, it was not meant to happen. Inconsequential fight.
All the other deaths were meant to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I
But,
orchestrated them all.
Yeah. But I just,
The nominees for best animal are Jeb's Phantom Rote, Rufflestrip, the Rat from
Oh, that was
Season
pronounced
1,
correctly.
Episode 1,
Oh, this is a hard vote.
Shale's Serval, Abercrombie's Finch, and Tactus the Unyielding's Royal Dire Wolf.
classic.
And the winner, in an absolute blowout,
Yeah.
We all know.
the Rat from Season 1, Episode 1,
Nice.
who came back with the defibrillator.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
The rat skitters
Classic
across
rat.
the stage. The nominees for Best Sentient Object in our campaign are the Broom from the Order of the Exalted Ring,
Nice.
Jeb's Bell, Jeb's Ball Bearing, Brad the Homunculus / Miles the Homunculus, and Shadow Walker. And the winner of Best Sentient Object in another landslide is Shadow Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
By a
Shadow Walker's a 2-time Nemmy winner.
Yeah.
Wow.
More than
two-time
some.
Nemmy nomination winner.
Yeah.
And he's not even here to accept it because he got eviscerated.
Yeah.
That's true.
Rip that dude. The nominees for Best Chat Intervention Moment are Saving Thraxenhow,
Yeah.
Stopping Mavira from chopping off Zoth's arm,
Yeah, we would have had 2 amputees.
and
Yeah.
Emping Magic. But the winner in a
Emping
landslide
Magic, yeah.
is Sir T-Sab Emping Magic.
How dare
at the
you
end of
do
Dawn
that.
of Worlds.
The impetus
Yeah.
for this entire
I
campaign.
mean, I get that, but the
Yeah.
the DM, you take that back from Thraxenhow.
that was really good.
Was really good.
Yeah.
Good. It was
Really
really
good.
It was really good.
The nominees for
Great
Best
and
Story Arc in our campaign are The Underdark Arc, which is Season 1, first half.
the Underdark.
The Tumbleweb Arc, Season 1, second half.
Yeah.
The Garlel Arc. The Macark. The Clan Lupus Arc.
Yeah.
The Larodith Arc.
Yep.
The Gaim Arc. No Mole Left Behind. The Caper
Classic.
Arc. Do Bumblefoot's Arc.
Yep.
Sad.
The Thraxenhow Arc.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
The
happened.
Airship Arc.
Oh,
The
yep.
Mellow Arc. And the Final Arc. But the winner in an absolute landslide
Oh.
is No Mole Left
Yeah.
Behind.
No Mole
The
left
Capers Arc.
behind.
I think if we
Worth a
voted
watch.
after
Perhaps
the
a
finale,
sign we should have been playing Blades in the Dark all along.
Hey, I'm just saying that there was so much also production value outside of that, like
There was.
the intros,
Yeah.
the
art
oceans,
that
the art.
Willa made for us.
Yes. It looks
So
so beautiful.
I think
Yeah.
if we had played out the finale, we probably would have voted for that arc.
The final arc? Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
That's possible.
I agree.
The nominees for Best Named After the Chat are Apple Cats,
Yep.
Grub Bugs,
Unfortunate.
Grubs, and Mugs.
Can't forget it.
It's Actually Keys, Key Lime Pyre,
Classic.
True.
Bradford Street,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Visalis, the gnome delivery driver for Thames.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
And the winner is Grub Bugs, Grubs, and
Oh,
Mugs.
yeah.
Bestie, if you're out there,
Bestie speech.
Bestie
this one's for you.
Give us a delayed speech that will be like
In the
after
chat.
we're already in
Speech
another
in the
Nemmy.
chat. Speech in the chat.
Speech in the chat.
That's
the,
awesome.
The nominees for Best Side Quest and Sub Adventure are Stealing a Joke Book for the Jester of Udril,
Yeah.
Robbing a Bank and Buying a Cipher Truck,
Iconic.
Worth
Angel investments.
Angel.
Putting a Stop to the Pretender Thief King, Zothkug Gets a Hat,
Yep.
Jeb
Classic.
buys a pony and returns it.
Sells it.
And the winner for Best Side Quest and Sub Adventure of the campaign in a landslide is Robbing a Bank and Buying a Cipher
Yep.
Truck.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was so
That
good.
was not robbing. That was looking for investment material and receiving it via angel investors.
We robbed a bank.
Redistributing of funds.
Yes, redistributing the funds. We seized the means of the economy.
I've seen some TikToks.
I don't think
about
that's quite the way they say
redistributing
it.
We did not
myself.
seize the means of production. We just took money, like a lot of it, out of a bank.
We seized the results of production.
The
Chat,
abstract value of
this
production.
concludes the first ever,
Wow.
most prestigious Nemmy Awards show.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us for this celebration of all that made Urada beautiful.
Folks, how about a round of applause for our host?
Oh. And a round of applause for our voiceover artist.
I'll invoice you later.
A round of applause for all
yeah.
of our players. And lastly, a gift.
A gift.
What?
gift?
A gift.
A gift?
A gift?
We have
This
here.
I wasn't
campaign
told
has
about
been
a gift.
Aw, we have here custom dice bags
Aw.
made by Willa the Wisp for each of our players.
Whoa. Very nice.
Very
It's so
classic.
soft.
Wow.
Wash already
Wait,
has
the
his.
Yes,
inside-
I already have one.
Look inside. Look inside with your special eyes.
These limited
Look inside
edition, one of a kind, limited run Nemmy
these look
edition
so
dice
cool.
bags contain
look
pockets
at
for your
this.
individual dice to separate them into their different
It's like
pieces.
little
A
pockets?
rolling tray at the center.
It's
A
so
pull
cool.
and loop catch system allowing you to close the bag nicely
Wow.
and tightly. And structure added to the base to allow them to lay flat when being used as a rolling surface.
Dude,
I love this.
I love it. Thank you so much.
So yeah, that's
This
that.
is beautiful.
Awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful.
This Nemmys Award show brought to you by Wisp Pouches.
Did you-
For keeping all of your dice.
These are
make
so
these?
cool.
Wisp Pouches.
Join us in 5 minutes
you.
for Ask
Wow.
the DM Anything after this short message from our sponsors. There's a 4Get ad, right? We have that? Is that coming?
Why? No, with the stacks out of this room? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, people are in here. Sorry, bye.
Is this the recording studio? Am I at the right place for the ad?
just start talking. It's already rolling.
Okay. Hello. I am Alan, a representative of Four Guys Adventures and Vibes, and here with me are my friends, the co-founders.
Hey,
of the
sorry, I
company.
just got here. We were rolling because I got an
yes,
interview in
I've been
about
told
a
we were
minute or two.
rolling.
I got to really land this interview.
Yeah, I've been told we are rolling.
Oh,
What are we rolling?
I believe
Rolling
it is
this
some
up
sort
'cause
of
I got an
material that what we are saying will be recorded into. It's a physical. I believe it's something physical that then I need to do more research on it.
oh wait,
but then it will
are you
be.
telling me
I'll-
we're
I'll-
recording like right now?
I'll
And
leave this to
everything
you,
we're
man.
saying
Like,
right now
this
is
is
in
above my pay grade.
Well, I
Wait,
appreciate
where's
that.
the script?
Oh no, I figured that we would improvise this. We've done a lot of improvising, and it's got us
Oh,
this
we're
far.
good at that.
Yes, indeed.
I wasn't being serious.
Oh, well. Anyways,
we
we are
won, Jeff.
Four Guys, Adventures and Vibes, and we are here to.
We vibe, man.
We do vibe, and we are here to
Adventure.
create some counter programming to the things you may have seen on your televibes about us.
Did you know?
Don't believe everything
I
you
was
see on the
I was just
Oh, you
television.
were prompting me.
I was prompting.
Oh,
Did you know?
that we, Four Guys Adventures and Vibes, are making a new commitment to you, the people of Urada, that we will
That's
help
right, you.
rebuild after the Aboleth Cataclysm.
That's a lot of responsibility.
What's an
man.
aboleth?
An aboleth? Well, the aboleths were the evil creatures that the private security goons and anyone associated with Sir Topham Sav were making allies with that were wanting to take over the world and cast it into darkness.
What are you talking about? There's no aboleth in my history book.
There will be, I'm sure, at some point.
Now let's think about what is aboleth. Now, if you think about it, it's actually a fish. Whoa, crazy, right? But this fish can read
Are you
your
making this up?
mind.
We're not making this up. No, this is completely true.
Yeah. So anyway, fish reads your mind, takes your mind, makes you do things in your mind that become actions outside of your mind. And may have
So just
started,
don't have a mind, man. Then they can't influence you.
Yeah. That thing behind your skull
That is
inside,
not-
take it out.
that
Take
is
it out
not
right now.
scientifically
It is
accurate.
the
We do not
weakness
endorse
in your
taking the
body.
mind out of your
Remove
body.
it. Remove it now.
No. Recording studio person, can we start over?
That's the ad break. We're going to cut that and put it on YouTube for your amusement. That was fun. Yeah, so last thing that I thought would be fun to do today is I told the players I'd give them a no holds barred, ask the GM anything. My notes are open to you. All of my thought processes are open to you. Your burning questions, your things you were upset about, your contested rulings, your did you plan it or was it improvised, all that stuff. You know, if you have questions like that, you're welcome to ask them, including our guest characters who are also here with microphones.
I do have a general question. I think that helps open this up. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What were the aboleths even trying to do?
The Aboleth's plan, after eons of doing battle with the gods had found a way to bar them from entering the material plane. So the Aboleths figured, well, we could do something similar, except once we bar them from coming into the material plane, we could relocate it so that they could never reform that bond.
Oh,
so
wow.
the plan was to kick the gods out of the world, destroy all of the anchors to the divine planes, which were all the sites of religious significance, and then open this massive rift to the plane of limbo, which would subsume the material plane. In the plane of limbo, your mental acuity is the only thing that manifests reality, and the Aboleths, as a sort of persisting being that had kind of a hive mind consciousness, were just going to maintain reality around the material world. Except then it's like you're in the Matrix, right? They have full control. Their whole
interesting.
motivation is like they're better than the gods, worship us, we're the ancient ones. So in that world, they could just present themselves as the ancient ones and it would happen. It would just be as, the simple power of their thought.
Wow. You
So-
be like, you're duck now.
Right, and you saw the beginning of that plan get enacted when you started casting the ritual. They were like, well, we haven't quite put all the pieces in order yet, but it's clearly go time because the avatars are trying to link back to the material planes. And had anyone rolled an Arcana check to notice it, you would have seen a fourth thread that had formed off of the machine towards the city of Stainless, which would have kind of helped imply that push and pull.
Interesting.
Wow.
So that's what the Aboleth's overall goal was.
Okay.
That's cool.
And bad, but cool.
Yeah.
Cool and bad.
I think a question that's been on all of our minds is what the heck was that prophecy supposed to literally mean?
This is the beautiful thing about prophecies
Because
in D&D.
it wasn't about this, or was it?
Well, no.
It
so
was.
Okay.
It was about this. It was a prophecy. So
I remember the sun disappearing part.
yeah, chat,
that's true.
The prophecy in question is pinned in our Discord. Maybe one of the players can pull it up and read it for us.
I can pull it up.
It's in the 4GAF chat. But the beautiful thing about prophecies in D&D is that if you make them vague enough, then they can just be fulfilled by anyone in any way. And
Oh yeah.
I did that with this one. I didn't even say the last of Kelnor's anointed. I said the last of the anointed. And then I seeded throughout the campaign that the changelings were called the anointed of Fox, but also Zothkug was called by Dew Bumblefoot, and Owlin was one of the last of the A2 surviving after the or the Azamar, I should say, after the floating peak fell. So like there were ways it could have been any of you.
Yeah, interesting.
Jeb was the only chronomancer in the world. He was the last of a line of chronomancers. And the day when the sun disappeared, I knew was coming because I knew the final battle, the rift, when it opened, part of that flavor was they're going to rip the sun out of the sky. That's how you know that something's being subsumed in rather
did
than
the sun
just
come
being
back then?
destructive. Yeah, the sun came back when you ended it.
okay.
Although it hasn't risen yet. And maybe it never will. I don't know. That's a future DM's problem.
Whoa, hey,
But
whoa.
say that.
I said the glow of the sun on the horizon is there, like the light is coming, but it hasn't risen yet. So that's a
Okay.
future DM's decision whether there's a sun or isn't.
Interesting.
I tried to leave as much open-ended as I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
in case someone else wants to pick up and do the next adventure. If I do it, that's fine too. But that's,
Wow.
I
Interesting.
tried to seed a lot of potential outcomes or story, hooks for the next
I'm already
stories.
generating it
There's
in my
like
head.
there's like the Demogorgon, and there's, the rift that was opened is a rift to the plane of limbo. Who knows what came through while it was open? True.
Oh, yeah.
So there's all sorts of
So-
kind of interesting adventure hooks in there.
If we did fail, that would have
Talking
been
to
A
your
little
mic, please.
closer, yeah.
Sorry. If we did fail, I guess that means that we would have been the material plane would have been sucked to the plane of limbo.
Yes.
But would we have immediately noticed anything, or like would that have been apparent?
Your
Like-
failure would have resulted in your death, so you probably wouldn't have noticed.
Okay.
If that machine had blown up, it would have been catastrophic for
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Like a nuclear, small
Yeah,
nuclear
essentially.
going off. Yeah.
It was all that energy from because basically it was the full weave of magic of the
Yeah.
Shadowfell, the full weave of magic of the Feywild, and the full weave of magic of the ethereal plane condensed into a single machine with like 4 batteries in place to try and
I
stabilize
could have
it.
absorbed it.
Jeb's
would've
like, I'll
won.
turn into a T-Rex, it'll be fine.
I'll just do a temporal shunt into like 100 years in the future. So sometimes it'll just blow up somewhere. We'll see.
I'd
As
laugh.
long as the world ends later.
Yeah.
and like a
Just
little
buy us some time.
a little cut scene, like a deleted scene. It shows what if Jeb did that, and you just cut into a time where there just happened to have been another explosion in the same exact spot.
Urida, what if?
And then, so if the avatars had failed killing the Aboleth, the same thing would have happened, or that.
The
Sequence.
avatars would have been sucked out of the timeline, but there's no way back from that room.
Yeah.
That was one of the collaterals of the cataclysmic ritual that they had not realized, is that the only way out of that room that is outside of time is into the void. So essentially, I didn't make us watch it at the end of the campaign yesterday, but they would have had to have made the agreement of like, well, I guess this is it, and jumped off the edge
You can
themselves.
check out, but you can never leave.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Classic
Interesting.
Hotel California.
And who knows what the other collateral of that is,
Yeah.
and that's another thing that's open to
Wait.
the next adventure.
That means if they just get bored, they could just start like, I don't like this part of history.
No, because it took like a certain amount of damage threshold being dealt to interact with the
Yeah, but
painting
They
system.
damage each
avatars.
other, and then K heals
I guess
them.
so. I mean, they're so Kay could heal them for a while. You're right. They could probably mess with history for a while. That's a future DM's problem.
Oh,
wow,
interesting.
It didn't happen at my table.
No.
true. Oh,
I thought it was really cool that the prophecy was talking about the day that the sun didn't rise, and the finale landed on the eclipse weekend.
That is
Oh,
true.
Yes.
that's true.
I've been
Wow.
cheesing about that for a couple weeks.
Josh
Ah.
planned that.
Josh did like tell me, he confided in me. He was like, I'm so upset because it's gonna happen this Monday when we normally stream. And instead we do it on the weekend because it's more obviously convenient to do a
Yeah.
huge thing like this on the weekend. And he's just like, if it happened on the one day we always stream on that we just don't happen to be streaming.
That's funny.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah, it would have been perfect. You're right. It would have.
Wouldn't that have been nice?
Not.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been nice?
Josh, how do you feel about butchering your finale but not streaming it on the day that the eclipse happened?
Yeah, you know, it feels rough. It's rough. It feels bad.
I have another question. Is there any like things that happened that we just never ever saw a hint of? Like that you had to keep track of for other reasons that maybe we would run into it, but just never came up.
Oh, for example, what was up with the tieflings in the Northwest? Like that was a thing where we just like saw a poster that was like tieflings, and we were just like,
We never addressed
we're
it.
doing something else.
That is something that I had to track without you. That was the first wave of like stage 2 of the Aboleth plan, right? Stage 1 is get into the world, which they did. Stage 2 was they needed to use like mortals of the world who would not be horrifying to like go around and destroy stuff. So they made a pact with the tieflings, which is kind of equivalent to like a Warlock of the Great Old One type pact. Where they granted them certain powers in exchange for their, following their lead. So the tieflings were not enslaved, which was key because if they got in combat, the Aboleths didn't want them to like just turn around and be like, oh, I've been lied to.
Gotcha.
Right.
So they had made deals with, the first deal was with Sir Topham Sav, who basically he's like a rich dude,
Yeah.
and
Classic rich
he's
dude.
so unbelievably wealthy that he's gotten to the point where like what do you spend your money on? I don't know,
Right.
experimental magics. And so he found it's kind of like in Lord of the Rings when Pippin looks into the orb, he like found a thing that connected him to the plane of limbo, interacts with the Aboleths, and they convince him of this cool plan to make him even richer.
Yeah.
And that so he funded the operation that ripped open the rift, which was conducted by, from the same town as him, High Priestess Selene and the cult that lived beneath Stainless. And that was how Zagreum got activated.
What was the thing from season 1 that we
We
missed?
never. Yeah, we never. You kept on saying there was something in season 1
It
we
was
just never.
It was the prophecy.
Oh, it was the
Oh, okay, cool. So
Yeah.
we did figure that out.
The prophecy on the day with no sun and the stuff.
Cool.
And the last of the anointed. And you all were like, that's a prophecy, that sounds important, and then never acknowledged it again. And then later you were like, I wonder like when their plan's gonna happen, or like what are they trying to do? Or and it's like, well,
So wait,
funny.
where's this? Did we ever see the first rift or?
no,
anything?
it happened before our adventure time.
Well, sure, but I thought it created a physical.
Oh yes, there is a physical rift. It's in the ocean between the 3 pillars of eternal vigil. And it is where the Aboleths emerged from. The closest you got to seeing it is you saw vestiges of the Chaos Limbo energy when you jumped a mile down into the Underdark, but you skipped a lot of them because you jumped over that dungeon wall. But there were that wall is the wall that divides from the sea. Like the sea's not pouring in there because of that wall. You were that far south at that stage.
Interesting.
So there was the big river where you found the Zorn.
Yeah.
That river led back to the ocean where the rift was. And so the occasional big thing was like
wild.
floating up the river. And would have been there to find. But
Wow.
and some of them had like moved in and lived on that cave dungeon. So they would have gotten more and more extra planar, right? Because the first thing you found
Yeah.
was carrion crawlers.
Yeah, okay.
Which are like totally Underdark things.
Yeah.
And then it would have gotten like wilder and wilder until like at least on a player level, you'd have been like, what in the world is this doing here?
Weird.
Belly has a great question.
Oh, you're right. Would have been neat to see where the floating island with the magic wishing well ended up. You're right. The players didn't go there.
I don't. Did the players like characters not even know? Did we like?
It's
as
like a
characters
historical thing. Like it's at least a
we determined
rumor.
it was like a fairy tale sort of deal.
know? Right.
We touched on it in that one shot that I ran, but I don't know if that was canon or not.
Yeah, nobody knows if it's canon or not.
Yeah.
I kind of have treated all of the one shots as like parallel canon, except the one where Forgav goes away because
Right.
we talked about the canon first.
Yeah, they're like maybe like Star Wars Legends canon, where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's
Well,
a story
the
that's
one-
been
books
told.
that got read.
Urida, what if?
Yeah,
The one I ran kind of had to be canon because of the beans.
well, that's true. Yeah, that was in
That's
the.
And Ronald.
Yeah.
Ronald.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
FP. That
And
was
FP.
where
I think it's more
FP
like the
come
ones that took place in Urda history is
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
being referred to. So I think we at least speculated about it a lot, but I
Yeah.
don't know if we ever figured out.
The answer is because you never tried to go there. I never figured it out. That's a future DM's
No.
problem.
I'm changing the subject. I'm
Oh, sorry.
We that was a preface. We speculated about it a lot, but I don't know if it was ever confirmed. What was the usage of the magic spikes in the ground
That's what I
that
was
we
gonna
found
ask.
in like
Oh,
the
yeah,
second
yeah.
episode?
The magic spikes that you found in the ground were a primitive version of what Laerdith's machine was doing. So they were actually, you know how she had that chisel that she stabbed into the ground, allowing her to redirect energy from the threads of the weave that came in?
Yeah.
They were like that, except it was the threads of the weave already in the world. So they were actually anchors that were holding the weave down into... so the avatars were like batteries. You need this huge power source to drag the weave down and like kind of force it into the ground, which disconnects it. It's not in the air anymore. It's disconnected from all the things around you. It becomes two-dimensional.
Okay.
And then to keep it there, they had all of these kind of conduits or pathways anchoring it to the ground. A technical victory condition would have been to find all 400 and whatever of them I rolled, all 400 and whatever of them, and break all the spikes.
Dang.
Wow.
So like even if one was left, it would still cause issues? Oh, wow.
And then what? I don't know if we ever went over
Very,
the actual mechanics of how did Sacrium activate.
Oh, yeah. So
Holy Sacrium, activate. Holy Sacrium, activate.
the rift that Sir Topham Sev opened allowed the aboleths to bring energy from the plane of limbo in, which they used to activate the Sacrium. So Sacrium was in the ground already. It was just a random substance, some mineral that had, you know, and we saw that white paper that said like, oh, Sacrium existed, but it seemed like it was
chaos.
waiting to be charged.
It was chaos magic. That's why it was wild
there was
magic.
wild magic stuff
Yep.
going on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they brought in this chaos magic and it kind of suffused. They had already created a pathway because the first step was pin the avatars, use them as batteries.
Gotcha.
And it kind of
What?
through.
Why was Sacrium called the Fire of Knowledge?
It sounded cool. Sacrium's an actual combination of roots in Greek.
Okay.
The fire of knowledge is what it translates to.
How did the avatars initially get captured?
Through a lot of conniving, basically. Like Garlo was betrayed by Makar.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, the
lot of
aboleths are
influencing.
long-term schemers. So they just put people in place over however many years
Yeah.
it took to get them.
I mean, like, what
And
happened to...
that's what the Order of the Broken Scepter. That was the aboleth's force in the world before they could get back into the world.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
What happened to do Bumblefoot? Like,
Bumblefoot got
literally
wrecked.
the next question on my list.
well, like by what? What was
Oh,
the
like how did Do
process?
Bumblefoot
Yeah.
die?
Yeah.
Do Bumblefoot was in the same kind of trap as Garlo. And when you rescued Laerdith, and they knew they only had one avatar left because Kay is missing somewhere.
Right.
They were just like, we can't let them all be rescued. What if they stop us? And they killed. So when Laerdith was rescued, that's when Do Bumblefoot died. The aboleths just triggered their own failsafe.
Because Owlin thought that it was because he took too long on the ride.
Right.
That's interesting.
It was already... Yeah, you're
So
fine.
if they were like slowly draining the avatars, like did they just like ramp up the draining on Shrub?
No,
beforehand?
Shrub went down to fight them in the dark side underneath Tumbleweb.
Oh, so Shrub wasn't like captured.
No,
Shrub
Shrub
was
wasn't
killed.
captured. Shrub was like, I'm going to go and fight them. The other avatars don't believe me. Like, this is my final letter to
Interesting.
my wife or
Yeah.
whatever. And Shrub went down underneath Tumbleweb and was like, you know, he maybe didn't understand the whole plan. He was like, well, I'm the avatar and I'm here. I'm going to
Yeah.
go do my best, you know. And he
Interesting.
just got.
Wow.
Will all the people that were controlled have memories of everything that happened?
Because of the way that the control of them was severed, that's a future DM question to
Okay.
answer. I believe rules as written, you do.
Okay.
I built in a mechanic for the longer you were controlled, the more traumatic it was to pierce the veil of the illusion.
Yeah.
So that was Jeb had to make some rolls about when he tried to remember the aboleth's plans.
Yeah.
He would have to roll to get through the trauma they filled his mind with to get to what was actually happening around him. Because it's all elusive.
Yeah.
Or illusionary.
And that's a lot more interesting, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it made for a more fun,
It
like,
did.
risk-reward kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, from an RP standpoint.
So, like, where was Willow? Like, why was she there at the end? Or was that just like a physical
Oh.
manifestation of Fox's mind?
Willow was really there at the end. Willow, who, if you'll recall, you heard the news that they had pushed the aboleths back into Stainless,
Right.
which meant that they had cleared the part of the ocean beneath the Pillars of Eternal Vigil, was at that rift.
Oh.
Cool.
And Willow heard Fox when he, like, I don't remember if he screamed or if he just died, but she heard Zoth scream as it came through the rift and whatever, as Fox kind of passes into the ethereal thing. and it was because of the strength of that anchor or that bond that she was able to reach through and try and pull you back. And that's why I played that scene as like you're in the ethereal plane and it's trying to subsume you like it does everyone, where your spirit fades and you kind of lose your sense of self. But it kept blacking out, and you would get this call of Willow, who's like, "No, wait, I think Fox is there, like on the other end of a rift, reaching through for you."
That's cool.
And as she figures out what's happening next to the rift, she's hearing you. She's trying to give you more and more. So that's why she eventually was like, "Oh no, he's on a boat. It's the anchors. Look for the anchor," and kind of giving you some guidance there.
That's cool.
What was up with all the mermaid bits?
Oh, a whole bunch of them had just gotten destroyed. From that river goes to the dark side and Tumbleweed.
So there was like an active conflict going on
and
there?
we found a lot of them had died under, we found East's dead body and whatever. So, there was a whole party of them. It's just that only West had made it out in that combat.
How many aboleths in total were there? Was it 4?
There were 4 aboleths in the world, although when you kill one, they reform in the plane of limbo.
Yeah.
What was up with the undead one?
Oh, the undead one? So, High Priestess Selene and her little cult of...
High Priestess Selene. Did we hear that name before?
In the Capers.
Before the Capers?
No, only in the Capers.
Okay, so she wasn't one of the people on like the murals in the dig site?
No.
Okay.
She and her little cabal of cultists, cabal is the word I keep looking for, her cabal of cultists had been, they were used to activate Sacrium. That was the people that Sir Topham's have financed. But then their greed basically got the better of them, and they were like, well, if we don't need the gods to pass on to the afterlife, what if we never had to go to the afterlife? What would it look like if we could just be the gods? What if we could resurrect? Whatever. And so they, standard cult crap.
Sure.
And when you went back to Stainless, and I realized they might actually become relevant. They're like, a single paragraph in my notes or whatever. So I realized they might actually become relevant. So I was like, oh, they should have something they're trying to work on. What I wound up at is they tried to resurrect an aboleth so that it would be under their control, so that they could use the rift to do things themselves. But instead,
that was their power grab.
But instead, because it's an aboleth, it reformed with all its memories and all of its plans and whatever. And so the huge rift they made underneath Stainless, which was all of the seismic activity, was that rift being formed improperly. The aboleth just took control of the chaos energy, and it became the fallback plan.
Interesting.
Of, if we have to subsume early, they made us another rift. We can use this one.
Yeah.
And so that's how that
That's
happened.
why Stainless fell into...
Yeah, that's why Stainless got dragged in.
Well,
Go ahead.
what was in the other metal cube that wasn't the one that didn't get blown up?
So there was one that had all of the plants of chaos energy.
Yeah.
There was one that had an aboleth in it.
Yeah.
And was there a third one in that fight? I can't
I thought
remember.
there was 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of them had an aboleth in it, and one of them was full of shadow creatures.
Okay.
Okay.
Why did they have them boxed up? I mean, I get the
To not
aboleth.
spook the tieflings who were real creatures who had agreed to work with them. Like the tieflings had made a pact with them, but that doesn't mean they
so
know
were
all
just like moving stuff in place. to
Exactly.
them.
Interesting. How early in the planning or the campaign, obviously you're outlining like a very grand scheme that the aboleths have. Did you have all of that mapped out from the beginning, like before session
No way.
one?
No way.
Well, how did that form across the campaign? What were your idea of what we're fighting against? How did that develop as the campaign went?
I knew the Rod of 7 Parts was part of it on day one, because I was like, how could magic go away? And I was just reading through artifacts and stuff, and I was like, oh, this thing breaks when you use it, and that was all I had. So I knew the Rod of 7 Parts was in the world, and then I see, and the first clue you found was the Order of the Broken Scepter, their thing. I didn't figure out it was aboleths until later in that campaign.
Really?
Or later in that season.
I was going to say, because the first hint of aboleths is when we go to the
dig site.
The dig site. And
I knew by then.
I say, because listening to that episode, I'm just like, it's
watch.
aboleths. Of course it's aboleths. There's stuff everywhere about it. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
I think it might have been that week that I found them.
Okay.
But I was looking for creatures that were, you can also tell how it's aboleths because I was looking for creatures that had a beef with the gods, and aboleth starts with A. So there's just the first creature I came across that had a beef with the gods, and I was
That's
like,
funny.
those ones.
Yeah.
So that's how they became the big mastermind.
That's cool.
So
A lot of their grand scheme, the wheels are put on that cart throughout the story.
makes
as you
sense.
go places and influence it and discover more about it, I started fleshing out in more detail what they would do.
Cool.
And some of it I made up in the session, although I can't tell you which pieces, like just because I don't know if I remember.
It felt very cohesive, I will say. So congrats
you did
on
a
that.
very
Thank
good
you.
job of improvising a grand scheme, eons in the making.
Yeah. Prior to TSAV imping magic in that world building session, did you have an idea for what the adventure would be at
No.
all? Like anything?
No, that was the purpose of the world
Okay.
building for me, was to figure. I was like, we're gonna pick the adventure we want to play as a
it.
group rather than
That was definitely like a good catalyst.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
Interesting.
Is there any like, I don't know, there's got to be a lot of plot hooks we ignored that
Oh,
were
yeah.
like just maybe not related to the prophecy or conspiracy,
Immediate
but just
quests.
like random quests that we were just like,
There was a lot in. There were like 12 things on the notice boards in Tumbleweb, and you only had time to do like 3 or 4 of them before you were like, "Oh, we've burned our reputation here. We got to go."
yeah.
The Udril, I had notes for like very brief notes for all 11 clans besides the royal clan,
Oh,
but
wow.
you only visited with Clan Trekta and Clan Lupus. So there was stuff to discover, but it wasn't like super important to the story. You never went to Arivale, although I had figured out a little bit of a tie-in for like how it might relate, but I mean very vaguely. I just thought that you might find someone there who had a theory about
Arvale's on the
crescendo.
East Coast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was where Radford had like all a backstory
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, we
there.
had a little bit of Radford's backstory there
Zoph
too.
and Riley were from that area.
Oh
from
gosh,
Oat.
who was that character I made for the interview process? I loved him.
Oh, the Hemetician
Yeah.
cleric guy?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what name I gave him. Gravelston or no?
I tried to mostly build quests when I figured out where you were going, so that you got to
Sure.
play all of it. Because for me, there's no worse feeling than like that would have been so cool if they had gotten to do it.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
There's now sometimes I put forks in the road where it's like I want it to cost something when you
Yeah.
make a choice, but that's not quite the same as like, here's an entire cool adventure that you just won't get to go on because you decided
Gotcha.
something else.
Yeah.
Or I would repurpose them and move them somewhere else. Like there's some stuff
That's
that
diff- yeah, that's
maybe you
good.
found in one city that could have
Good
been in a
DM
different.
stuff.
Yeah.
So like,
Josh, what was the biggest challenge of having 2 full casters and a half caster in a game with no magic?
Yeah, that was super challenging
Yeah.
because I wanted it to still be fun for you to play.
Yeah.
But also, I wanted to honor the fact that chat had made the catastrophe. If it was a
Yeah.
player, I can hand wave that away and it feels less bad because it's like he's trying to
Yeah.
make sure I have fun.
Yeah.
But like chat did it, and that was the bit for our stream. Was
Sure.
like chat has a lot of power and agency over our story. So honestly, I had some conversations with Wash in the pre-session 0 and session 0 where I felt out how far I could go before he got really upset. And I didn't phrase it that way, but I would just like, what if we did, in like the, we're dreaming.
Yeah.
But really, I'm like taking notes over here, I'm like, what if it was like this? Wouldn't that be so neat? And every now and then he'd say something or he was like, oh, I think that would ruin the fun. And I was like, great, noted, and I so then what I ended up linking it to is I was like, well, if I link it to an item, then there can be some undiscovered reason that item doesn't work. And I didn't know why your blunderbuss worked until the season 1 finale. I was
makes
just
sense.
like,
That
but
tracks.
there's some reason. There's some secret reason. What it turned out is that you were underground. You were building
The
all your
Sacrium
spells with
network was,
material
like, down
components
there.
that had Sacrium and the
Yeah.
weave in them.
Oh, interesting.
And when you went back above ground, it stopped working, and that became part of the quest of season 2. Is like, why isn't it working anymore? What's wrong with my magic?
Yeah.
So
I think also that was like important conversations Josh just had with people prior to us making characters. Because I
That's
remember
true.
we had a conversation about it too. I'm like I want to do this, but like, will I even be able to do anything? And
Yeah.
we had that conversation.
Yeah, I kind of same boat as you, but I was like, I kind of asked for it.
right.
Like it was the magicless world of Urda. I'm gonna play a wizard.
Yeah, and we knew what the world was going to be
Yeah.
before we did any character
yeah.
creation.
Yeah.
It's not like Dawn of Worlds. We started with wizards and then looked for a place to put them in the world. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we know the magic is empt. Who do we want to be?
Yeah.
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 okay, you're probably, I know the answer to this is going to be like, that's for the next DM. But I'm curious if you had written down anything about it, about the Order of the Exalted Ring. Like, what happened on that day, and or like, what are they doing? What are they up
What the
to?
dog doing?
What's the dog doing?
You mean like on the darkening, or you mean when you
On
won the
Darkening.
finale?
And also, I guess that, but
When the darkening happened, the Order of the Exalted Ring had like basically the big air bubble that was around their citadel failed,
Right.
and so a lot of them died. But some of them just happened to be on their spelljammers at the time. So if they were on their Spelljammer and away from the material plane, it wouldn't have had any effect on them.
It just seemed like
The
a lot
broom
of them
said
had,
everyone left because some of them were in the process of leaving. Like, we're packing up the ring world.
Right.
They've got their stuff on, and it's like they're on the part of the trip where they're standing on the ring instead of in the Citadel. The ring is its own demiplane. Like, that's they were messing with the planes, and so they made a demiplane and put a weave of magic in it and whatever. So then magic fails outside. They go outside and go, that doesn't feel right, and they step back into their demiplane and leave before they suffocate.
Interesting.
And because it's a Spelljammer, like, it has its own engines and everything to so they couldn't planar shift or whatever, but they can still just fire up the engines and like, well, we have some supplies and just try and get to any plane and then pick up from there. So that's what happened with them.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you interpret planes, like the material plane?
Like, how do I imagine they're like spatially, you mean?
Yeah, because I almost get the feeling from you that there is like a geological component to them. Like, if you go deep enough, it's like another plane, or if you go high enough, it's another. It's like the material plane almost feels like just the planet. Like, I'm curious how.
So I picture the material plane and the echo planes being completely overlapping, although they're geographically different. So like, there might not be a mountain on this one, but they're the same size and they live on top of each other. The other planes, I picture them a little bit like the Border Ethereal as I played it in there, where it's like there's an ocean you can go across and eventually you come to them. The ocean itself is kind of void. Like, wild space would be like that ocean. And then if you navigate wild space and you have the acuity, you can sort of get yourself to another plane. But wild space maybe doesn't exist in 3 dimensions. Maybe it exists in 4 dimensions or something like that. Maybe there's a time component to it, or maybe there's some other piece of it that's just like, that's a magic-y thing.
These Spelljammers then weren't just like mounted on the side necessarily. It was just like a portal into the Spelljammer, and the Spelljammer was just in this like weird void soup.
Basically, I mean, it's not a portal into the Spelljammer. Like, it comes down to the tower and it parks there.
Oh, okay.
But it's, remember I talked about you're on the beach and there's no boats?
Yeah.
Like, it's like a boat, so it comes down to the beach and enters your world.
So when it leaves, does it just like take off, go up, and then just transverse into another like fourth
I imagine it kind of fading like to something incorporeal, like like render distance in a video game where it just kind of fades out. But I don't know. We never really saw it at the table, and it never really became the kind of question I needed to answer. So I was like, I'll figure that out if they ask.
Is the world of Urida round?
Oh,
No.
yeah, that's what?
Oh,
I
it's
had
flat.
my suspicions.
Okay.
Flat.
Interesting.
It's flat.
Flat.
Are we talking disc? We talking? Is it actually square?
It is. I don't know what shape the world is overall because I didn't want to limit future DMs to only having those two
One
continents.
Yeah, 2 continents.
So I don't know.
But it's not a planet.
But no.
Interesting.
But I'm not a rapper. No, it's not a planet. It is a flat disc.
Really?
I had my suspicions.
Hey, Josh.
Hey.
What's one moment that the party did something completely opposite that you wanted them to do that like sticks out in your brain?
I feel like we did a pretty good job of staying on track for most of the part.
And maybe opposite of what you expected us to.
I tried
that's
to buy a pony once.
Yeah.
No, but I think all those are good things. Like, I think
Right,
they're
right,
fun
right.
and emergent storytelling and whatever. Julia, can you remember any times when I was like, I can't believe they did that? That's so frustrating.
It doesn't even have to be frustrating. It should just be surprising or exciting.
I was, I wasn't
The
really.
first one was when they passed your whole dungeon crawl by jumping off the thing.
That did surprise
was
me.
the first time.
That was a very good
You
one.
were. It
Yeah.
was the first time I saw you flustered because it threw so much planning out the window.
Yeah.
You were like, I knew everything on every level, and now they're like
doesn't
ahead of
matter.
the game,
Right.
and they didn't do all the leveling up that they needed to get to the next
Yeah,
thing.
and I phrased it as being you missed all the leveling up, but also I was like, they missed all the seeding of the planar rift. Like, how do I give that back? And I just never did. I never found another way to make it make sense. So you just never got that clue. Yeah.
I mean that's it worked.
Typical.
I was.
But we set a precedent for the entire rest of the campaign.
We did.
That's
with
true.
The falling.
I was.
I used it.
Yeah. I was surprised in the way you handled the season 1 finale as far as your escape from the facility, I thought you were going to like become loot gremlins when you realized that there was like boss level stuff in the storage room, and you like grabbed one thing and fled. You know,
felt
which
like we were
makes
just under
sense in
pressure.
character. Yeah.
I don't know if I would have recognized that there was boss level loot in there.
I mean, we saw the rod, but
Right. We saw
the
the way
rod
you
and the
described
thing,
it made
and
it
then-
sound like it was like finding
Like we
an
opened up
ancient
that
tomb
one- yeah.
next to the printer paper.
Well, yeah, it's a bunch of factory workers. They're not like organizing it very well. So
Right.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was it just surprised me a little bit.
I can guarantee you that if I knew there was other loot in there, Jeb would have been
oh,
like,
I guarantee
Yeah.
you.
hold the
Groot
door,
lemon.
Owlin.
If we had time, I would have found out if there was. If it felt
What
like
would
we
we
had
do
time.
to buy us an hour to attune to as much as possible?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think that was an interesting part of playing in this campaign, and like any type of campaign with this, like that fits the genre of like we're on this like godly time crunch in quotes. And
yeah.
so it's like you have to be selective about the things you explore and
Yeah.
want to do,
Yeah.
as opposed to like just being able to get kind of free roam of the
Well,
world and explore.
I was shocked at how much it affected you when Zothkug died, and that you went back to get him. Like
Yeah.
that you were like, we're gonna take a whole session and try and fix this, and like what that just really surprised me. I just didn't feel like you had built that much of an attachment to the character. It wasn't
Really?
like I mean, I get in like as players on the player level that you're like, you know, oh well, we want to save the guy because I want Trevor to stay in the campaign. Like I don't want him to leave, you know. But I was really surprised at like how viscerally it affected you that Zothkug died, and how much of a surprise it seemed. Like
Well-
when it had been your judgment of his
I
rod
know,
attunement.
it had been
Yeah.
Alan's judgment.
That was so hard.
That was
That was. oh man,
I think I only approved
Jake,
him
I
on
respect
technicality,
your
too.
position on that so much.
Here's a fun fact about that rod attunement. The entire scene at the end with Makar was improv. I did not have a tiebreaker contingency. Like I knew I needed one, but I just
Yeah.
had run out of time to make it. So
Interesting.
Can I ask a question about that?
yeah,
Was there a condition for that first encounter where they didn't have to fight?
I mean you were the king, so it
Yeah.
would have depended on what you did.
It was very freeform.
They
is
were
what Josh is
encounters.
saying.
They were encounters
Oh.
with no ends
Oh, okay.
and an endless opportunity of wisdom-related checks that you could be making.
Okay.
and the win condition was a certain amount of successful wisdom checks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tisk tisk.
They were all of the
Like, I was
rods
just-
were meant to test your ability to use the skills in creative
Creatively.
ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was just like focused on like in the moment, sort of either making like role playing it, or I guess kind of like it was a weird thought process for me. And I think I left sort of the Zoth character.
Yeah,
And
I
or-
saw you go into puzzle mode, Trevor,
Yeah.
instead of roleplay, Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, how do I solve this problem the best?
Sure.
And you were punished for it.
I was, and that was my fault. But I wasn't thinking like using skills, because I generally
Yeah.
try and like enjoy the role play and like the creative like in-game solutions, as
Yeah.
opposed to like what checks and abilities can I use.
Sure.
Yeah,
what
it
it
was.
what it was meant to be was
Yeah.
a chance for you to role play into your checks. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to use a skill in this way that is a role play flavor.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the way I like to role play, and especially like the characters I like to play, is very much a charisma rogue.
Yeah.
And 90% of that is bullshitting. And
Yes.
bullshitting is a stat on your sheet. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
a lot easier to like, I pull to the bullshitting stat. I'm bullshitting you. Roll for
and,
bullshit.
And yours I had to be a little bit more specific on like which skills you could use and how you could use them,
Yeah.
just because I knew your mods were so stacked into like one or two of the charisma skills.
Yeah.
That it was like it won't be a well-rounded
Yeah.
puzzle for you if I just let you use those two skills the whole time.
I will
Sure.
say intimidation is my weakest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is Gunner's strongest.
Understandably.
I think the rod of dexterity attunement was so much easier than the wisdom rod attunement.
There's a it's a physical challenge. You can just
Yeah.
immediately imagine it, say what you're gonna
Yeah.
do. I think
Roll for it, yeah.
I think Owlin's decision there was one of the like hardest moments
no.
for me in the
You did well with
entire
that.
in the entire campaign.
I think it was great.
It was
Yeah.
perfect.
Same.
You said something I was afraid to do. I was afraid to
Ah.
fail him, and it made me so happy to see like he's not afraid to, and that was the right answer in my
Yeah.
opinion.
No, I agree.
I appreciate that. But I think the reason why we spent so much time, like we took an entire session to save Zoth, I think was what Wash was talking about kind of in our little intermission earlier, which is like I think we all recognized that Zoth's
he was our stone.
His vibe, as one would say, Zoth's vibe was what was like keeping the group in line in some ways, like in like a sense of like even if it was like not perfect, like sort of a sense of harmony, in that way. So I think there was like definitely a desperation
peace
for that.
domain cleric.
Yeah.
One would how unexpected.
I definitely was like, I mean, I don't know. Zoth was very much like, he didn't change too much.
No.
But that's what he needed to be for our group dynamic. He was the glue. He was the heart.
Yeah.
And so to see the heart disappear, ripped out, that of course was
It was
going
also
to...
like an unexpected time, too.
Yeah.
We already had like a fresh wound on the party too.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
with
we
Jeb
just
was
lost
gone.
Jeb.
So I think there was a large element, Josh, of like not so like too soon, like not again. Like we just lost one. Like we got to do everything we can to redeem ourselves.
I see what you mean.
And it like Watch said, unexpected. It was a low-level fight. Supposed to be like, I bop you and you're dead.
It was the dice that wasn't included in the dice betrayal, but there was a lot of
some dice
betrayal.
betrayal.
That was a big
yeah.
dice betrayal.
Like that whole encounter, I don't think I rolled above like a 10.
Yeah.
I think in future games I would be building the Nemmys list as we went on because it was really hard to just recall all the possibilities.
Right.
At the end.
I mean, this is always the cutting room floor, man. It's undeniable. It's a fact of life.
I do have a question though. What were the biggest moments where you either realized or like noticed us not remembering things consistently with things that had happened in the past? Like I know that like we can joke about there's some plot holes if you look back.
Fox and Zoth, as we already went over.
So wait, are you meaning plot holes that I found in my exposition but you didn't notice so I glossed over it, or do you mean plot holes like
we
you had learned a thing
embodied.
and then you all forgot about it and did something different?
I think both.
I think
both of those are interesting to
like we
discuss.
manifested something wrong because we incorrectly remembered the past.
Yeah, there's also I know, and I don't know what they are, but there are definitely moments where like we misremembered something and kind of spoke it into existence, and then from then on we just we're like that's what happened.
Willa remembers a bunch of these. She notices them and feels very visceral about them. I think the most egregious one from her perspective, probably until this session where she learned how inconsequential it really was to the outcome, is that we really screwed up the timeline of Alan's attunement to the Rod of Intelligence.
Really?
I thought the first one had taken 6 months or 9 months or whatever, but that had been your entire relocation from somewhere. The actual Rod attunement had only taken like a month or two. So it was supposed to be on a scale of weeks, not on a scale of months.
Interesting.
Jeb's rod attunement was 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And
Every failure was a week.
he was
every failure was a
He's just
week.
better at it.
And when Alan did it, every failure was a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never caught that.
And she was so upset because she was like, maybe Do Bumblefoot would have been alive. And I was like,
Yeah,
No.
I cared a lot about Do Bumblefoot for no reason.
Julia just thinks all small creatures are cute, and Do Bumblefoot was a weakling.
That's
so
true.
Yeah.
would there have been a way for us to have saved Do also?
Not unless you had handled Laredith differently, basically.
I think it was put as you mentioned, one of those forks of like, listen, if you're gonna leave the Aboleth with only two choices and you remove one of them, they're going to take a choice.
Yeah.
It would
So
have
unless
to
we
happen,
did like some crazy caper, like Ocean's 11, like we're in position a continent away.
It would have had to happen simultaneously, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the
Interesting.
passage of information takes time in a world without reliable magic.
Yeah.
So the Aboleths, although they have kind of a groupthink for their intentions, they do have to communicate in order to share information. So you could have just split the party and gone to both places and done them at the same time, and it might have worked. I don't know. I would have rolled for the timeline, basically, based on when Laredith was saved.
Interesting.
That would have rolled to see if they had gotten there. I did a lot of rolls between sessions with this one because otherwise it felt like I was unfairly advancing plot elements you couldn't see.
Sure.
So I did a lot of like, I don't know, how quickly does it happen? And I just roll a d20 and see.
Yeah.
I think that
That's fine.
puts a lot of fun into it though, because that's like
Yeah.
It also made planning fun because I'm discovering like, oh shoot, this next session they're gonna find out that this happened and they're gonna be so upset.
Yeah.
I think it fits the whole vibe of what you said, which is like the DM and the players are having fun together.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
fighting each other.
Yeah.
And so it adds to that
We're
by
fighting
being
Chris.
like, hey guys, sorry, but I rolled for it and you're screwed. So, and we're all just kind of adapting to that. You're adapting by trying to get the story to fit that narrative, and we're adapting by experiencing it and trying to work through it.
So I don't know if you have an answer for this or if it was just fun, but how does Scale and Sons just know where anything is?
I have no answer for that. They're just a fun little like staple of the world.
That's nice.
They're
So my biggest manifesting blunder, I think, was for the entire first maybe arc of the story. I thought there was like 30 years between the darkening and present day.
Yeah, there's definitely like times where like I think mentally I think I was lucky that a lot of our conversation bits in play, like in character, didn't bring it up specifically for Fox, because there was definitely a time where I thought that as well. And then it'd be like I'd look it up and be like, oh yeah, no, it was 3 years, and there'd be times where Josh was like, it was 3 years.
That's funny. I think mine was I couldn't in my mind, and I tried to speak about it somewhat vaguely. I couldn't in my mind place how long ago the tower collapsed for Alan's backstory. And
3 years.
It was 3 years, but the tower fell twice.
Yes.
In the world building.
In the second era, the tower fell and then was rebuilt by one of the avatars.
And so in my brain,
which one it was?
Yeah, which one it was. But then it's like, if you really think about it, it's like, oh, well, if that's in the second era, that's so long ago.
Yeah.
Right. But because of like us doing the world building in such a 3 days time, that's, for me, it was like, oh, that was all really close together.
Yeah.
And so I just, as Alan, I tried to speak as vaguely about, back when that happened. And then also the other one that is totally on me, I kept misunderstanding and misremembering the nature of Zothkug losing his name. And so, And so Alan kept in character being like, I think I'm remembering it, and Josh would just be like, no, you're not remembering it.
I will say I think that was the most abrasive misunderstanding we had at the table.
And I'm sorry.
It was really
it was
nice.
all of us. It
It was
just
all
you,
of us,
Jake.
yeah.
It was really nice and really impressive that there was just like one of those.
Yeah.
Like everything
Yeah.
else has moved so smoothly and so naturally.
And there's a lot of made up homebrew mechanics in this campaign that are not D&D.
It's true.
That's true.
Many of them that I have been, later down the line realized, like, oh, that's a little too much or a little too little or whatever.
Like the Rod of Luck.
The Rod of Luck is way overpowered compared to the rest of the rods.
Especially since it's not even a reaction.
Yeah.
Just a thing. I know. And it's like, it doesn't even produce a dice roll.
My big
it's like
mistake
you just
was going for
choose-
long rest instead of per lunar cycle.
And your
3
second
of those
big
per
mistake
lunar
was
cycle
giving
would
it
have
to
been
me.
dope.
Yeah.
I didn't. The dice did.
know.
That's
I
the
know.
whole point.
Alan
just
didn't get
ground
to
it out.
consult with the rod right before the finale because of the lunar cycle thing. He had consulted with it for the parachutes, and and there was not a month gap there.
Yeah.
Addressing one of the sort of plot holes, I guess, with Fox and Zoth, like.
Oh my
We didn't
gosh, your
justify-
two's understanding of their past together is so funny to me.
Well, I was telling Wash and Chris that like it totally would have been on brand for them to have had like one adventure and then just gone with it and made it up as
I
they
want
went.
you to know, right?
Yeah.
In our friend group, I pride myself on being very hard to gas lamp. And you have nearly, I remember many times being like, what is he talking about right now? And I'm trying to yes and I'm like, this isn't, we met after I left, I believe is what.
What do you do when your yes and is a no but?
And
No,
I'm
babe,
like,
you love to be
but
gaslit.
then I was like, am I wrong? I'm like, at this point, it was just more less you gas lamping me. At some point, I was just like, is that the canon I decided we're going with, or I don't know anymore.
Gaslit
To
Inception.
Me, to me, it's like
Gas
if,
lamping myself.
if anyone here likes the band 21 Pilots, the two members of the band always make up a new
Yeah.
story about how they met every
Yeah.
time
That's
they
kind
get
of like what I
interviewed.
thought it would kind of be like. Like there's an
It
way to
became that.
justify it, but I just forgot the nature of their relationship.
Yeah, no,
and it
I
was
I
funny.
noticed.
Chat, if you have other questions, feel free to ask those too.
It's
Just
Schrodinger's
free
we
We
origin
did
story.
the same exact thing with Riley and Zomph, where I think we changed.
Did we?
Partway through the first session, their backstory.
What did we change?
Okay, so there's something about them being twins, and then
Well,
we
we-
changed like where we grew up.
I don't think we did. We?
Yeah, it was we had some inconsistencies in
I
our
think
career
we have
backgrounds.
changed and you didn't because you thought one thing.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the bit was like in regards to siblings, like that they weren't twins, but everyone assumed they were, and so we always like that was like the bit.
Yeah, no, there was definitely some bit
Wiggity womb, I'm in new clothes.
I had not planned and was very excited to have an opportunity in the scene in yesterday's session where Fox meets Raisha to be like, I'm explaining away Zoth's name. I
Yes.
got it.
I thought that was- I thought that was
like, I found it.
awesome.
I gave it back. I sent it back.
I
thought that
saw
was
it
awesome.
on your face. You're like, yes, this is it.
Yeah.
I think that bit was just so difficult because it's not something that we can physically imagine happening.
It is in every Feywild
It
story.
is, but, like, no
so
one-
you can physically imagine it by physically reading about it.
Well, okay.
Anywhere.
To give Trevor credit, it is not the way the human brain is used to working, right?
Sure.
Where it's like there's a physical thing in front of me.
Josh is like,
My
your
wife
human
just
brain.
texted me and said, Radford 1 for voice.
Well, it's in every Feywild story as an abstract. They don't talk to you about like the consequences, like the explicit and mechanical consequences of it happening.
It's a good voice, Amanda.
They're just like, hey, we have your name now, and then they don't talk about like what that means and how it works.
Well, they explore it.
Josh is just about to say,
This
they
is
do,
going to
but
be a
that's
persistent
okay.
point
Yeah,
of
like,
contention.
Maybe
for
if
the
you
rest
read
of-
the next chapter of those stories, you might
This is,
find the implications.
This is a classic moment. I love when Josh does this of being like, "You're wrong, but you're happy to have that idea in your
I don't.
head."
I
I
don't
can't
really
do anything for you.
I don't
Yeah,
really like
you're
the
allowed
fights
to
at the
have
game
wrong
table,
opinions.
but sometimes it's like
Well-
I just have to tell you that this is the way that it is, and I'm not interested
Yeah.
in continuing to discuss how you don't like that it is the way that it is. And we're gonna move on now.
Like me complaining about the range of spells.
Oh my gosh!
Good times.
If only I could use locate object that wasn't limited to 100 feet.
100 feet.
If only.
If only.
Josh, D&D
Now
5e
you
is
can.
so like built on itself. How did you go about balancing the custom races?
I didn't.
understood. Yeah, I was gonna say, was it like a balance or like, we'll figure
all
it out
the
as we go
custom
along?
races. I just did the was it Tasha's or whatever, where they were like, instead of having actual racial traits, just pick 2 skills and give them a +1, or 1
Yeah.
skill and give it a +2. Like I
I
just
see.
I
Yeah.
took those vague things, and then I gave. I just picked visions and senses and stuff that made sense to me, or I would let if a player picked that race, I'd let them pitch me on something. Like the advantage on smell-related perception checks was Wash's idea, and I was just like, that fits for a mole, you know, like that makes sense.
When Wash was texting me about like his new character and stuff, and we were talking about his skills and abilities, I was like, that's so broken. I was like, what? He's gonna let you do this? And he was like, yeah. And then we got this, and I was like, what? You have this too? You're a wizard with an action surge? This is nuts.
I was also trying hard to be
For
super.
that brief moment of time, it was beautiful.
I was also trying hard to be super generous because I was like, well, you're also a wizard who can't wizard.
yeah,
right.
yeah, that's true. That's
So
It's one of those things where like you were given a handicap because you were a wizard,
Yeah.
but once you got the wizarding back, you scaled so much.
true. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, casters scale really hard anyway.
Yeah.
So then to take away that disadvantage of early and then,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
very strong.
I will say, changelings. I believe I just pulled from one source book. I
Yeah.
forget which one it was. And I was
They're
just like, "Do you like this source?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's fine." And I was like, "Okay." That's how
were
I
like,
talk
what?
in normal life.
Yeah.
that's when we're not on stream. This is Cleo's stream voice.
Is that your inner monologue? So when you're saying back what I was thinking, I think it is.
I was thinking I need, you know,
My
like,
monologue
okay,
is Bradford.
I got a pants.
There are 2 dragonborn inside of me.
They're both
Bradford and
Bradford.
Cleo.
I have had a lot of fun with this campaign. I wanted to ask something else, and now I have forgotten.
There are several noteworthy scenes that I improv'd in full that I was trying to remember which ones they are because I think they would surprise you that I didn't have notes and
The
I was
answers
just like
will
piecing them
surprise you.
together. Julia,
third one will
I don't know if you're
surprise
still on your if you still have your in-ears in. Can you remember any of those scenes where I said something like that? Can she hear me?
I think she's coming.
Oh, she's coming. Can you remember any of those scenes where I was like, oh, I improv that whole thing, but I think it went super well?
She's sitting down.
Approaching.
She's grabbing the
grabbing
microphone.
the
Microphone is in
microphone.
He's got food too.
She's
The one that
finishing
comes to
chewing her
mind is the Makar ending in the
In the rod.
The rod
Yeah.
attunement.
Yeah, that one's improv. One of the rod attunements is fully improv. I'm trying to remember which one, but we got there.
Was it
The
not
intelligence
Trevor's?
We got there and I had the page and I didn't know what to do with it. No, I think it might have
Was it
been
the luck?
Alan's attunement to intelligence,
Oh,
maybe.
because you didn't want to do it the exact same as
I didn't want to do
Jeb's.
here. Let me look at the note page. I have Rod of Attunement 2 is the page here.
Electric
No,
Boogaloo.
this one has notes in it. Some of them are called
Was it the
Electric
luck?
Boogaloo, but not that one. It's not that one. I don't know.
Was it Dex?
Luck. I made up the
Luck.
mechanic for luck that session.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know you were going to get the Rod of Luck.
Oh, sure,
So-
sure.
Oh, really?
What was the benefit, like the perks to the Rod of Charisma?
What?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not charisma. Constitution.
Oh,
the one that the king
Constitution.
had.
I never worked it out. I
Okay.
just found cool things for him to do that fit into the Constitution modifier and was
That's
like,
fair.
he does these because he's
Yeah.
got the Rod of Constitution.
That's fair.
I
That's
think
fair.
I gave him one legendary success on a con save,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like written. I just was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he'd probably get one of those, and he did
Gotcha.
it.
So wait, when you said Rod of Luck,
This
made
was a
it-
lot like a roller coaster where it had a lot of really well thought out decorations immediately next to you, but just behind them, it's just like exposed wood
Yeah.
and nails.
Well, you said Rod of Luck. You made up the mechanics.
Yeah,
right?
the rolling
Yeah.
and stuff on this. Yeah, I made that up on the spot.
But I thought you were like, yeah, I've been checking every single roll, or was it ever
Oh,
since
how
you
you
for
get
the,
it.
For the attunement he made up on the spot.
So, for the rod to
Oh.
appear to you was a statistical condition. I found something statistically unlikely, and then I looked for it for the whole session. And like I said, I knew about the Rod of 7 Parts from day one.
Yeah.
But then when you got the Rod of 7 Parts, I was like, shoot, they have the Rod of Luck, and I forgot to figure out how to attune to it. And then Jeb, of course, is like, I attune immediately. And I was like, okay, and you're here, so I can't like open up another tab and start writing notes because you're
that's
at the
right, that
table
was
with
the
me.
live
So I was
session.
like,
Oh, wow.
all right, roll a d20. It's just like
I was really sure that the luck rod was going to appear if you got 3 rolls of the same thing in a row, which
What
is a
were the
very
requirements?
frustrating statistical likelihood. But the thing was that he gave a bunch of options for it, which helps.
Yeah,
But
right.
one of the options was that 3 people would roll the same thing 3 times in a row. And later on, we had more people rolling initiative because everybody had 2 characters.
Yeah.
So instead of having 4 characters, there were like 8 characters, and they all would roll initiative. And the first one was 3 17s in a row. And I was like, well, yeah, because you rolled more. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
you increased your odds,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
of winning. And then from there, it went up to 4 initiatives in a row, which immediately happened.
Again.
Or 4 rolls in a row, I should
Yeah.
say, which immediately happened like that afternoon. And
That was
that's I
wild.
think that's why you attuned, wasn't it? Because you were like, shoot, if people are going to keep getting the rod, I need to lock this thing down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we
And
know
so then-
who else
Put a ring
had
on
the
it.
Rod of Luck? Like, was
Sir
there...
Topham Sav had it before then, and and then he yelled, "You have my spike!" as you left the. He called it a spike. He didn't know it was part of the Rod of 7 Parts, but he had it, and that was how he survived his encounter with the plane of limbo. And the Avaleths were like, "Shoot,
Interesting.
there's part of the rod. Like we know about that thing, So
Wow.
it was a big little thing.
Was there any Easter eggs we missed like that?
Probably. I threw a lot of my Easter eggs were on the spot ones where I was like, here's a scene where I can tie in the greater lore of the world.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So especially ones that related to NPC characters, it was just like sometimes I'd be like, oh, we need an ominous flavor here, Mavira, and I'd find a way to mention Mavira.
Did you ever
or
figure
something
out
like
what those spiders were doing?
What the spiders do?
Which spiders?
At the day one.
Yeah,
The day one spiders?
Yeah, they were just chilling behind
Reggie?
the door, right? Yeah, Reggie.
He was
Yeah,
just
Reggie.
chilling. That was a random encounter I rolled on a literal random encounter table.
I mean, I went into that because you mentioned that, but I actually was meaning something else. But I was
Oh,
like, that's a good question
The
too.
seafaring spiders
Yes.
in the world
Oh,
building.
the seafaring
What
spiders.
were they up to during
They're
the
still out in
campaign?
the sea.
Cool.
They never came on land because there was an army right south of them
Are
that
they-
was like doing
oh.
stuff.
Are they
Oh,
faring
so they're
well?
just like
I think so.
they're just
We'll have
there.
to see.
They're just chilling the whole entire time.
When I've gone back and listened to the parts in Udril, I was really interested. I think I got the information from you personally, but I was really interested in. There's like this close friend of Tactus the Unyielding who shows up, and everybody makes a really big deal about introducing this character, and then there's nothing that comes from it. And I was like, who is he?
That is
I need him.
Yeah, that's a fork no one explored. Let me see if I can find his. I just pulled up that session's notes, the one where they meet the
Keep your eye on
king.
the one
Part of it is just that Tactus.
Oh my
is
gosh, I
rogue
forgot
to
your
everybody.
room names: the Puce Bird,
Yes.
and the Chartreuse Stare.
Yep.
That was
see.
actually the first episode that had brazier instead of brazier. But I didn't know what a brazier was, so I didn't know how to call it out. I was like, you're just saying nonsense.
His name was Trinidad. He was back from his mission reporting on the Eos Lore Foundation Tower, and he had found Garlel there. He would have given you this is where Garlel is right there if you had kind of tracked him down and talked to
He's
him.
gonna pull that mic.
But
Oh no, he went the other way.
So, wow, I keep thinking of questions, and then you say something really interesting. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And then the question leaves my head.
Write it down.
I could.
That option is open to
That
me.
is open to me. Anyway,
I've just been clicking on random notes to see if there's anywhere I'm like, oh, that would be an interesting talking
yeah, help us
line.
out, chat. Any good questions in the chat?
Was Kay always destined to land at that, or was that like just a roll that you
I
made?
put Kay on the Pillar of Eternal Vigil as soon as he was lost in the air. I was like, there's nothing else for an airship to run into that high.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
fair.
So eventually he's going to drift into that, and that'll
makes
be
sense.
his thing.
What's on the other pillars?
We figured that out in the world building. One of them is incredibly inhospitable, and one of them is super temperate on the top.
Well, like, did anybody do anything with that?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't work that out.
Oh, okay.
If you had gone there, I'd have worked it out. But they were 30 miles across, so it's not like you were going to be able to see the top of one from the next one.
I was
you know?
surprised with 30 miles. Well, no, 30 miles. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was like, 30 miles, and my brain short-circuited
6
on
Mount
like,
Everests
Well, my brain short-circuited thinking
in a
like,
straight line.
Yeah, that's like the length of a bridge. They could have built the bridge, and then I was like, no, 30 miles, Leo.
Yeah, during that world building, my perception of distance was nothing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I like.
Come to find out, 30 miles across, a reasonable distance. That's like,
Yeah.
a couple cities or something like that. Up? That's a long way. That's space.
That's space. Yeah.
That's space.
It's like,
This may
baby.
have come up, but I never really grasped what was happening with the goats in the north. There was a whole thing with the
the
people.
goat boat.
Yeah,
Did they
there
have
was,
the same
people
deal or
from-
something?
Yeah, the goats were being shipped weapons by the Bright World Company because the goat folk specifically in the world building had been advanced with war magic. So after the darkening, they couldn't use their war magic. So they needed new weapons to be made for them to be sent to them so that they could begin on the east. And that's one of the things that took a while to happen. We only heard about the tieflings for a while. And then sometime, I think while you were in Udril, you got a report that oh no, it's happening in the east too.
And did they make a similar bargain to the
Yeah, same
tieflings?
deal.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
A lot of people making deals with eldritch beasts.
Yeah.
I feel like is that not something that's seeded in this world, which is the classic fairy tale of dealing with a devil or devil-like entity, and it always backfires?
Yeah, aren't all classic fairy tales so obvious in how they interact with the world? Classic fairy tale bits like Feywild things and ancient evil things, and like losing your name to a Feywild.
We got a question in the chat.
We do. have a
Oh
question in
yeah,
the
yeah.
chat.
What was everyone's inspiration behind their characters?
Oh, I don't think we explicitly talked about that.
I don't know if we really have either.
No.
It may have come up in a tavern talk, but
But
we
I
can go around.
I like revisiting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll start. So Fox, I was trying to think. Fox comes from, okay, how do I make an interesting character, right? I can be creative. That doesn't mean it comes to me easily all the time. So I'm like, I don't know how to make a character off the top of my head. And I wanted somebody that could grow. I think that was a big thing. I wanted somebody who could grow. So I think I specifically made sure he was young, right? A young character. And I was like, all right, it's a young character. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to do the classic coming of age, right? He's going to start off a little sheltered. He's going to start off thinking he knows everything and that he's edgy and whatnot. And
Angsty.
it kind of just fed into itself.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I want to play a rogue. And we have changelings that I conveniently placed in the world. And I was like, rogue changeling, so great. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's just edge it straight up. Put it up to 11, edge master, and we'll figure it out from there. And growing past that was just all figured out. These are really good grow moments right now. But I knew this is not how I wanted the character to be, but was a really good starting point.
Yeah.
Why the name Fox with the actual name Lily?
I thought it would add. So when I was thinking of his backstory, right, I was like, he's edgy, so he's got to have something he's rebelling against,
His
right?
parents.
And Kelnor, right, he's a changeling, so it made sense that he'd probably be raised in a group, all about Kelnor, and Kelnor's all about vibes, all about chill, right? And I was like, man, this gives like a very like commune hippie vibe.
Yeah.
So that kind of fed into his like raising, and I was like, well, if he's been raised like that, he's got to somehow rebel against that. If he's gonna go full edge. And so I was like, well, what are those like classic, like, I was born in the 70s and my parents were stoned when they named me. and so that's what I came up with. I feel like I just made some very anti-hippie statements. I want you to know my own mother is a hippie and I love her to death. And it's not like, I'm not against it. But yeah, no, I was like, okay, how do I make something? So I was like, okay, let's name him like Lily Peace, right? Because his parents, want him to be raised in a peaceful world.
This is my son.
And
Apple.
yeah. And probably, this probably would have been a name that would have been very normal in the area. But he's trying to rebel against that, knows that the outside world doesn't name their children that, so he's trying to fit in. And of course, edgy character, he's not going to pick like John.
He's going to think of something that sounds edgy to him, with his mind coming from this place.
So it's
Fox.
Yeah.
I like foxes.
Yeah.
I think Fox is like a cool character. Like, I don't know, animal.
Yeah.
Aesthetically.
Nice.
They're always like in folklore, like tricksty and cunning.
Yeah.
Which, like, for an edgy
Roguelike even.
You at least want to try to be.
Yeah, exactly. And other than that, I think I just wanted to give him something to not be a complete edgelord over. So that was the bond with Willow. A childhood friend that he's been separated from, and that gives him a more real reason to leave home. With the cover of just like, I want to leave home and do him out and strike out on my own. When in reality, he's like, I could, go look for my friend that I miss and I really like, but I would never talk about because that's not cool.
That's not cool.
Yeah. So I think that's all.
Which
Fox.
is funny saying like not talking about stuff in like this sort of a supportive commune.
Yes. It's like, stop caring about me and being very good friends, and I don't like it when you're comforting me.
That's funny.
How dare you teach healthy emotional regulation?
You can't ruin me.
You can't stop me from ruining my potential.
We go. Exactly.
That's a Nemmy award-winning quote right there.
Yeah.
I think for Owlin, it started similar in a way to what Cleo was describing, where I, like, in the world building, I was the one who like established the civilization on the floating mountain, the E2 and the Azamar coexisting up there.
Sorry, I just read the chat.
I can't see the chat.
And I wanted to play in that world, so that was like the inspiration for Owlin's race and his backstory in that way. Because I also the army marching to Rustfree and then establishing Stainless was another element of the world building that I established that I wanted to have a character who was associated with. So those things were important to me. And when it came to like Owlin's personality, it was I had a concept in mind of like a gentle giant, like someone who is a upfront class, but whose like main trait is like, I have more to give.
Kind of like the Iron Giant?
Yeah. No, Fox is the Iron Giant.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
But like, yeah, someone who like was because I enjoy playing like fighter style classes.
But you kind of wanted to subvert that trope a little bit.
I wanted to subvert it, and so the idea of like, and then the in-world explanation being like, Alan's in this society that values intellect and like knowledge of engineering higher than Braun, but then he's put into a situation where he's like drafted, and then
he was kind of conscripted, wasn't he?
And then he becomes a soldier out of just like duty, and then now he's at a point in his life where he's trying to get connected to the part of him before he was a soldier, and then that's when the story picks up. Is like he's at that point, and that's like him looking so physically imposing, but then having a voice that's a little bit more like this. And originally in the first session and never afterwards had a little bit of like a British accent, like a proper British accent. Was me trying to like use like his physical description to show what he looked like, but then use his voice to like show who he is on the inside.
Yeah.
So that was my main inspiration for Alan.
Nice.
As they look at each other, like
thank you for creating the dirt folk.
Yeah, no problem.
For Jeb, I don't think I had his personality nailed down for a long time, and his motivation either. The initial concept was just a gun wizard, and the gun wizard thing came from like I'd played or ran at least a lot of D&D, and I really enjoy taking mechanics that are in the game and interpreting them in different ways. And so I was trying to think of a wizard, like using the wizard class abilities in a manner that the book does not describe.
Yeah.
So like the whole that kind of spawned the idea of like like packing spell components into shells and firing them off. I really liked the idea of like being presented the opportunity to interpret how shooting a spell would manifest it.
Yeah.
Because it's like I cast Healing Word, or it's like I cast magic missile and I stick my finger out and it goes pew pew pew, or like I wave my hand and rope trick appears. Like that's almost like the equivalent of saying 2 slashes with my rapier.
Yeah.
And like that makes combat just the worst.
Yeah.
So
I will say it was like your own creative prompt to give you a reason to describe what's happening.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like
some
really
of them,
cool.
Thinking back, some of them have whiffed, but a lot of them turned out really, really good.
I think in the first season, your descriptions of those things added the most like cinematic flavor that we were capable of doing at that time. I think as the campaign went on, we got better at describing what we were doing and adding character to all of it. But I think like you set the tone for like us starting to do that
that helped
more.
out a lot. Yeah.
I think Josh really latched onto that for like scene context clues too. So it really helped. That wasn't my intention. Oh, my headset just died.
Uh-oh.
But then it's back.
Oh.
I didn't even know it was battery powered right now. It's like
Can you
plugged in
hear us?
directly. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Cool.
What was I saying?
were saying
Context
Josh
in the scenes
latched
with
on.
your blunderbuss, and I used it for
Oh
something.
yeah, like I wasn't intending to use it to create context clues for like scenes and everything, but it really ended up since I had to like flavor the action of it. It just kind of threw that into the scene and let other people riff onto it. But really, the whole impetus behind Jeb was just this dusty Western cowboy.
Yep.
Got his little 6-shoot pew 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 magic missile or whatever.
It was
But his like the ties with his family and like on his character sheet the other day you were like reading, was it you that was like reading Fox's motivation, like his TBFs, the trait funds? I was like, what even are Jebs? And I looked at it and it was like all gambling stuff. I leaned super heavy into gambling because I think he took the gambler background as part of the character creation. And I don't know, that just felt hollower and hollower. It felt really self-centered. And while he is a bit of a self-centered character, it felt a little too self-centered. And it wasn't until Kyvan that I had worked out the thing with him being like a family man who no longer has a family. And like the thing with his daughter dying. And I was like, well, it was so long ago, certainly longer than 3 years, that it doesn't matter if I just like throw this thing in right now. But I really enjoyed the development of him kind of turning into the dangerous uncle.
yes.
To like a father who had a kid no longer does, and like those habits starting to creep back out. But then transitioning from that to seeing these young whippersnappers as more of like his peers. Like I thought that like up and down was
a cool transition.
yeah.
I definitely
really fun to
observed that where there was like a fatherly relationship for a while, and then there was like a respect that was earned at some point.
It's fun stuff.
I will say, speaking of, just one of my favorite moments about Jeb was the Uncle Iroh moment you had in the like Hot Springs episode.
Oh yeah,
The spa
The
day.
one with all the downtime. For those of you looking for it on Spotify.
That was, that was a good moment for Jeb, and just like it was a tearjerker.
I got
Seeing him-
really emotional in that scene.
You reflected on all of his relationships with all of the characters, and in a meaningful way, right? In such a way that I was like, wow, he is digging into this, and it is gold.
It was really fun. That episode alone, Josh and I had like worked out some plan stuff to kind of like seed how maybe it would get revealed, and then I don't know why, but that all went completely off the rails, and most of it was improv, but it felt like it ended up being a very satisfying conclusion to a lot of those threads that were like being tugged on, built up until that whole point. That was probably one of my favorite episods.
Really?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have favorite episode? Oh, sorry. Trevor, do that, and then I'll ask.
Yeah. So for Zothkug, I think I was just going through like I didn't have a set idea when I started. I'm like, I think I want to do a cleric.
Right.
And so you go through like I'm just going through looking for inspiration, like the character building process. You know, you have your like personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws, like that section of it. And I'm like, okay, so he's kind of like definitely like, I don't know about lawful good, but definitely good.
The goodest
boy. And so like one of them was like for flaws is like I avoid violence at all costs, and I'm like that would be really interesting from like a role play perspective in like D&D, and it would be kind of like a fun
anti-murder hobo.
Yeah, a fun like challenge to like work around. And so I kind of started at that spot. And so like all of his abilities and spells and like subclass were picked based kind of around that starting point.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, okay, why is he like this? What, you know, I like to come up with like fitting them into the world. So it's like, okay, where is he living? You know, what was his home life like? That sort of thing. And then like him being attached to Kelnor, like, you know, magic going away when Fox like approached, was like, hey, I want to do this thing. He's like, that's a good idea. I have a reason to like want to figure out what's going on with this magic stuff.
Sure.
But I thought it was just fun playing like just this lovable goofball.
Yeah.
He was. And when he died, we all loved him.
We did. And then it was an interesting challenge though, because like Alan brought up in game, you know, where it's like you're a pacifist, but you're helping a lot in this.
Yeah, you're very complicit in a lot of violence.
Yeah. So he had to like work around that, I guess. Or that was like a huge like he had to stop and think sort of moment.
Oh yeah, great archetypes. Grubhub's like Edge Master, Gentle Giant, Father Figure, and Lovable Goofball. My favorite adventures.
Aww.
No.
That is such a sweet
You're
thing
our
to say.
favorite bestie.
Yeah.
Favorite
Best
bestie.
bestie.
Best bestie.
Speaking of favorites, Josh was asking earlier, favorite episodes?
Yeah, do you have favorite episodes? And I don't want you to feel the pressure of like, wow, I need to rank the one out of,
Sure.
a bazillion episodes. But just like, that was one of my favorites type of things.
I'm definitely not going to be able to like swipe through the category of all of the episodes
Like, the
and
more
like evaluate and rank them.
Right.
But that one in Udril was probably one of my favorite moments.
I don't think it was the same episode, but I know it was very close to that episode. Like one before, one after. When I had to go with Fox and Jeb went to go get the joke book from the doctor, and they had that heart to heart.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful scene.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was completely improv.
Sorry, you said the Fox and Jeb scene. I was actually talking about Zoth, where he actually healed her.
Oh yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah,
also
yeah.
really good.
Yeah. But no,
That scene was also completely improv, actually.
Yeah.
nice. But I really
I didn't
liked
know it was coming.
heart to heart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Chat says when Zoth died, I almost quit watching. That was a really tough one for me.
Wow.
Thanks, Jeb.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
Belly said that.
I think that's a classic in any story when the heart of the group,
band.
right?
Yeah.
Dies, you're like, why are we even here then?
Yeah. What's the
Yeah.
point?
What's the point? Now we know that these two people are just gonna fight and it's just gonna go terrible and everything's wrong and it's just bad.
I think.
I stopped watching Game of Thrones after season 1 because Sean Bean
Oh
died.
wow.
Like,
But you knew he was going to die. He dies
That
in
was the
everything.
best
That's true.
decision, Jake. That was the best decision. I think. there's so many good episodes. I really liked the Tower, Summit Tower heist. I liked Minecraft racing.
Yeah.
I like the one where we first meet the Princess of Gaim,
Oh yeah.
where like Fox is helping Zoth with like poetry and stuff.
I understand. Zoth needed a little Riz. Riz Master Fox is
He
here to
had the
help.
look. He just needed the attitude.
Yeah.
I think mine is the first in-person stuff we ever did.
Ooh, that
'cause
was
there was
really good.
there was an energy to that.
Oh, yeah.
that was so palpable.
Yeah.
because we have, in my opinion, we have very good chemistry over Discord, and we can work around the Discord lag because we've been doing it for so long. But like the first time that we all sat down together and like started talking in the microphones, and I could hear
And
all
then
of
the
us in the
Fire Nation
headphones.
attacked.
It was just, and then the Fire Nation attack. It was like there was like a level of excitement that I had that I didn't expect. Like I was just like, okay,
Yeah,
we're about
everything
to do
changed
this.
after
Like,
that.
Yeah. So that was my
I
favorite.
think like playing at a table is just such a fun experience.
Yeah, I agree.
With as much as I enjoy Jeb and everything Jeb, the Radford and the Sunset House
Yeah.
was like, I don't know. I really liked him kind of growing with the party a little bit, but kind of like being a little disjointed. But then him already knowing folks there and then bringing everybody.
that was
Like,
cool.
there was a lot of really neat stuff there. Man,
I'm gonna hit the bathroom.
I think all of the finales too, just they hit so well.
Oh yeah, I will say I think what made this group work well in a lot of scenarios was I think like we all have an intuitive sense of like what is the next beat, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen this episode. We don't know what we want to do with our characters necessarily, but in the next 5 seconds, what is the next beat in this story?
I feel like you've all gained a really good sense of. We had to talk about this in season 1 about looking at who's in the spotlight and who's supporting that person in the spotlight, and how can I use my character to support the current spotlight character instead of how can I always spotlight my character.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a really big, like, just for the story's like watchability, I felt like that was a really big growing point where I was like, oh, I enjoy listening to the episodes more now. I liked them before, but I felt like they were so much more fun to listen to when we got really good
Well,
at
it's
that.
like one thing, like when you've got a couple of people in a team like co-op game, and they're all kind of good at what they do, but they're not working together.
Yeah.
And then they start working together, and next thing you know, you are killing it.
Yeah. I think also at the beginning, like apart from just like learning each other, it was like the goal was so abstract that it was like,
what do we do now?
yeah, sort of deal. Whereas like the closer we got to now, or I guess yesterday, the like more and more real it felt.
The more focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like at the beginning, it was just like, oh, we have a bunch of threads that we don't even know what they mean.
Yeah, you just start yanking on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Till
I
the
mean,
sweater falls off.
and I started putting together the conspiracy as you yanked on threads too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you'd be like, I've earned a clue, and I'd be like, you know, here's your clue, kids. And then I'd take that clue, and the next week I'd be like, shoot, how does this fit into the plan?
Yeah.
You know?
Did you have any favorite moments or episodes, Josh?
I'm trying to think of deep cuts. I'm scrolling through the names of them here because I feel like we have some episodes that stand out to everybody, like the one with the leap of faith and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
I really enjoyed the one where you arrived in Gaim and realized that the Myconid had become a mafioso. The one with gangs where it was like Peaky Blinders inspired a little bit.
That was the first one with Radford too.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that's where we
a
met
Radford
Radford.
entrance one. So I really liked that one.
Old man's gonna do it.
That's right. Old man's gonna do it. I really enjoyed the flow of a sideways building as a dungeon. So I really liked the Fallen Tower, where it was like you're climbing over floors, you know, and going through like that. I thought that was really neat.
Kind of gives me, I don't know why, it gives me a feeling like going through a shipwreck.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like.
It's
So
a cool experience.
I think for me, the ones that I enjoyed the most are honestly the ones where it was like a big climactic event, but I had found a way to play the event so it was all player driven.
Yeah.
Like, you know, exploring the Eos Lore Foundation Tower is something that really you weren't under a ton of time pressure for. I could just let you explore, and then, you know, whatever happens. And there's some stuff in there to see, but like they're on their normal patrol. So as long as you're sneaking, like you can take as much time as you want to do things.
Right.
And I had just given you a clue of what it looked like upright by letting you see what Alan saw. So then it became like this really cool role play section of the dungeon where I'm like watching how Fox is processing what he's seeing and Owlin is dealing with the repercussions of like how does it compare to my flashback, and like I just thought all that was, and then you get to the end and there is like a little bit of a mechanic puzzle to solve with like the sphere of annihilation moving towards
Right.
Garlel, and you're like, how do I break the trap? I don't know how to break the trap, but we're running out of time. I guess I'm just gonna try this.
Just brute force it.
Yeah, and it was like I really enjoyed that. And I think the mini games in general are a lot of fun for me. Although I feel after every mini game, including the one yesterday, I always have like a brief 30-minute period where I feel like uncertain of myself. I'm like, oh, I wonder if it was balanced wrong, or if it wasn't, I wonder if it wasn't fun. I wonder if it felt grindy or whatever. When I go back and listen to them, I feel like the RP along with the mini game, it's like it's just the right balance of like, here's what I'm doing, but then you can have conversations as you do them, and
I think that's fun. I was surprised at the amount of mechanics you put into this and how quickly it went foobar, but still worked. Like you had, I don't know if it was intentional.
You mean in the finale?
Yeah. Like just all the crates and items and all the different abilities. We didn't even use like half of them, but they were there and gave us thought, and we had to strategize, and it just worked out to be the right length of time.
I thought it would be fun, almost as like an homage to the fact that all of you in the anonymous feedback survey told me your favorite thing about our game of D&D was the not D&D stuff, the minigames. I was like, well, let me see if I can work a cool minigame into the combat. And Wash had sent me a picture of what the scatter looked like that he was printing, because we were just going to make flavor stuff to put around the machine when it gets unloaded.
That's
cool
what
little
scatter
crates
is.
and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But they were all in like sets of things. So I was like, what if each one's a different kind of resource,
Yeah.
And I started putting it together. And then I realized, just based on the amount of content I had in the finale, that it was too much content. Because I wanted you to have a chance to build the machine where the time pressure was going to be literal time pressure. Like we've heard over the radio that someone's coming. We have 8 rounds. Do your best with 8 rounds, representing however many minutes. And instead of that, I condensed it to like, well, what if they're under combat fire during the mini game? So now you have an extra set of actions that are just the D&D actions. And then I was like, well, I want you to be able to like establish yourself. Like, I don't want it to be like you're storming the cliffs, but I also don't want it to be like you have so much time to set up that they're storming the cliffs. It should be like you picked neutral territory that no one understood about. Everyone found out at the same time with the flare, but you have a tiny edge because you were there first. So starting with the airstrikes, where because they're so far away, I rolled a d4 to see how many rounds it would take for impact.
Interesting.
And a couple of them rolled a 1, and I was like, well, rip you guys. But
It'd be that way.
But the dice have spoken. But then putting them under that kind of fire, and then introducing each kind of thing you were going to have to fight in waves like that. So it's like the first thing you saw was like generic little scout mooks for the aboleths, and then you have the airstrike token on the board, which I was like not going to explain how they worked. I was just going to let you see that the ground blew up there, and then introducing the lieutenant for the aboleths, and then introducing like, oh wait, Christian's here.
And
there's the thing,
and worse, and worse.
I felt like that was, and then even like based on the amount of creatures on the field, the amount of things that different people could summon, I would just kind of up the power. I wanted it to condense to less mooks but stronger on the cliffs with you, and more mooks but weaker on the towers you were trying to take over. And it was an interesting flow. I had so little of it in my mind that I was literally like reading lines off of the page as they were happening, like just saying them out loud, and like, I think this will fit in the moment still probably. So I have no idea how coherent it was. I'm excited to go back and find out. But
just my expectation for the fight was different. So like I came in and I thought it was gonna be kind of more like a.
You talking to Mike a little more?
Sorry, I thought it was gonna be. I can't.
There you go. Oh, that's right.
No, you can turn it though. Okay. All right. Use your brain. There's a knob. The knob. Oh, there you go. Now turn it a little wider, like loosen it a bit more, because it's a hexagon and it's pressing up against a hexagon. So you got to turn it so it faces another face of the hexagon.
It's a super.
This has been Cleo teaches geometry.
Well, I asked Josh yesterday if I could rotate it, and Josh said no.
Yeah,
Cleo's a rule breaker.
Okay.
I said no during the D&D stream because I needed you leaning in towards territory so that the camera angles were right. It doesn't matter
It's
today.
just cool enough that. he doesn't
Yeah,
care.
Fox don't care.
I just intuitively know where the camera is. All right.
Yeah, if you can find your light.
But
that's fair.
I thought it was gonna be more of like a take this area and hold this area sort of fight. where like
stuff's coming in and we're kicking them off. Or
yeah,
something like that.
that was my expectation for the fight. I'm pleasantly surprised that all of this happened. But that was just what going into it. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have this area. We're gonna have to just lock this area down.
There was literally a moment when I was planning like the platforms coming out of the ground and everything, and I was like, okay, this is gonna happen, but I have to do it in a way where it's not just another fall. Like there has to be some way where they're on things. And so then I was like, okay, instead of
But it had
spires with something at the
potential
top,
to fall.
you could fall off of them, but I intentionally made it like if you fall off, you die.
Yeah.
And like the players had the ability to like cast fly or whatever, but it's like if Tactus goes overboard,
Yeah.
Tactus is gone.
And
you know?
Alan very nearly went overboard. Like
Yeah.
Alan did, yeah.
Yeah.
And it gave a cool hero moment for Tactus
Yes.
to save
It
him
did.
there.
Yes.
Oh, and the aboleths got killed by falling.
Oh yeah.
They also went overboard, yeah.
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 Into the void.
True to our nature of falling.
Falling is it's all that has. It's
We've been falling for each other since 3 years ago.
That was the Valentine's card I made.
We started by falling and we ended by falling.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving me there. I was.
Going back to your
You were falling.
final encounter.
Yeah.
Shigeru Miyamoto had a really cool interview when he was talking about game design. That really good complexity in games is just layers of simplicity. Adding, you don't want things to be very technically complicated. Just a bunch of
Simple things.
simple things, but stacked on top of each other that you have to manage at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And this felt like getting the machine together, getting people in position, having little combats over here, threads, strikes, monsters.
Yeah.
All very simple concepts that, your brain can say, that's a problem. How do I handle that one? But do I prioritize? This is a problem, but do I prioritize
Yeah.
this over that one,
Yeah.
or stuff
Right,
like
right.
that? And then it gives you a lot of variety.
And having two of the dragons that we met throughout the campaign
Yeah.
just locked in combat on one of the
I'm so
one of the
glad we pulled
platforms.
that through at the end. That almost didn't happen.
It was cool too. I originally had the dragons in combat as an environmental action where you were could occasionally be disturbed by the dragons are fighting and Thraxenhow is slammed against the platform or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
but when they were spawned on the platform, literally I just got carried away with the visual in my head was so cool of a fight so fast that it looks like they're standing still.
Yeah.
That I just was like, this is better. And I let them do that.
Nice.
And I think it was cool flavor. It was like no
Yeah.
one
Oh,
can
yeah.
take the Feywild platform while they're over there. Like, how are you even going to get on it?
I mean, Outland
So-
still tried.
Yeah, I know. And Tactus tried, but it's like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Like, they're the whole territory of
Yeah.
the battlefield,
yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah, fun stuff.
What made you design it instead of one flat plane as like 2 layers?
What do you
Like, is
mean
there
by?
any thought
Oh,
about
you mean for the
the pillars?
platforms?
Yeah.
because they fit on the build plate when Wash was 3D printing them. And I was like, that's cool. I wanted it to be spires originally, and then I realized that you'd all just fall. So I needed something for you to stand on. But I also wanted it to be enough of a varied terrain that you couldn't get defeated before you arrived. So if you stack enough mooks on something, it's impossible to get on it because the single amount of damage they all put out in one round will kill you. But by
Right.
having multiple platforms, it's like, okay, well now they have to spread their forces between the top and the bottom, or you can use an area of effect one on one platform and get on and then transfer to the other one. So it was
Right,
easier to
right.
take and lose by having the verticality of it. But then because they're still flat, empty platforms, they're still open to an area of effect spell is the whole platform. So it's not
Right,
like you
right.
can discern between friend and foe very much in that kind of regard.
In Gunner's case, that is what happened.
Yeah.
When you chose the actions for these for the avatars,
I ripped stat blocks.
did you know Meteor Swarm was in there?
Yeah.
That's broken.
I ripped intense stat blocks.
Yeah.
All 9th
they're
level
avatars.
spells are broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Wish.
fair. I don't experience this end
Wish
of
is a
D&D.
broken spell.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well, I didn't really understand it until he explained it yesterday about how Wish is literally just changing something and then the world figuring out how to work with that.
Yeah.
That's why it often goes wrong, because reality doesn't want to be changed and it will
Yeah.
fight back
So
against
I
your
don't-
wish.
I don't know if you saw Wash's face during the little ad earlier today when Jake was like, "We beat the Aboleth," and they're like, "What's an Aboleth?" And I think Wash picked up on it, and maybe nobody else did. But
Uh-huh.
Wash looked over
Oh,
at me
yeah, I
and went,
understood.
like, nobody even knows. They're not in history. There's no Aboleth.
Does the party remember?
Yes, you
Okay,
four remember,
okay. The
and
four
you are
guys.
it,
But
or
what
you
about-
three, really.
I said, what about the company?
I don't know.
They seem to respond well to Alan's.
That's true.
pep
We
talk.
did it.
Yeah, we did it.
That
We
could
did
have
the
just
thing.
been end of fight energy.
Who knows? That's a
We
future
did
DM
it.
question.
Yeah,
What they know.
True.
Yeah, that's Four Guys, Ventures and Vibes. I'm going to be honest with you, is probably going to have to like go bankrupt and
Like reform with a
restructure.
new name.
Yeah.
Make a big YouTuber apology kind of thing.
There's just no way for them to convince the world that an invisible threat that no one knows about totally almost killed them all.
But luckily, we saved the day.
But luckily, we saved the day by being at the epicenter of a major disaster and also potentially related to the one that happened in Stainless. I mean, we were totally related to the first one, so.
Best thing we can do: fake our deaths, get new identities.
Fox, check.
Oh.
Zoth, check, because like 3/4 of the world probably doesn't know he's still alive.
That's true.
How does-
More than 3/4.
How does becoming an avatar work? Am I like.
I don't know. I didn't answer that question. We don't even know if you do. You've got to convince the other four gods yet.
Yeah,
That's for the
true.
next DM, apparently.
Well, that probably is for the character epilogue. But
That would be
Oh,
fun
true.
to do. Is like each person plays a god, and then I just
That's
have
a
to
cool-
convince them.
that's
the
a cool
ones that
idea.
we played in Dawn of Worlds, maybe.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Pick up scenario.
So this is something Jake said yesterday that I think is amazing, and we should definitely do maybe if we keep going
Okay.
with this
Definitely
world.
maybe.
Yeah.
If we keep going with this world to play in, Jake was like, we should do one more round of Dawn of Worlds
Ooh.
as the gods. Like they were gone, they came
Yeah,
back
yeah,
after
yeah.
the catastrophe. What do they do? Just
Right.
like one session of it,
We
and
already
then the
know that
end.
they did the Jungle of Songs.
Right.
And like the,
And then the end of that can be the seed for the next adventure. I was like,
Interesting.
that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So-
I'd
What
do that.
error rules would you use?
I would use probably the second era rules where it's like 500-year increments. Like I would
Yeah.
want a pretty decent time skip, I feel like, if it was
Right.
me. And it would be so big of a time skip that if we wanted to zoom in for one-shots that follow our players, we can.
Right,
Yeah.
Like
right.
there's not enough history established in the next 500 years for it to matter very much. So then
Yeah.
I would say my thought process on that suggestion was that it would be staying in the same setting and there'd be a lot of things that feel really familiar, but I think there'd be just enough, at least for me,
That would feel
different.
different. Yeah.
That it like feels like it still is like, oh, this is new. This is something new.
And then like one shots or just other adventures could happen in between those times. You could zoom in.
yeah.
Yeah, we're just leaving the door open.
Yeah. So many adventures to be had.
so many. And
but-
vibes.
And
even.
vibes. So many
It sounds
vibes.
like we're kind of winding down the conversation here. Chat, we have a couple more loose end things to tie up for this adventure over the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a stream next week where we. What are we doing next week? Was it Ask the GM Anything? Was that next week?
Yeah, that was kind of slated for next week. Obviously, we did a lot of that just now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else. To
I mean,
ask the
honestly,
GM, but
if you have processed in time, we can do our character epilogues next week, and otherwise we'll wait another week and do them then. Give the players 2 weeks. We may not stream next week. I guess keep an eye on our Discord, and we'll figure it out
live on Monday.
until
See you tomorrow.
Until
Not
the next
Not
until the-
tomorrow, though.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah, not tomorrow. Until the next campaign starts, we're gonna be so loosey goosey
Yeah.
because we all I think need a little bit of a brain break.
Yeah, that would help.
So that's
I
gonna
don't know.
be.
I'm feeling so excited for the next campaign.
We also need to figure out what we're doing.
Jake's like, I'm so excited for the next
So-
campaign. I'm just taking the reins. I'm DM. I'm planning. It's going.
Nobody has to answer this question in case it's meant to be like off-camera thing for now. But like, do we have what we're gonna be doing next already?
No.
All right.
Nothing is decided. Nothing is official. We will work it out off screen and then tell the chat.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wasn't sure if we already had like an idea.
No, we've talked about several ideas, but we
Okay.
haven't really landed on any of them. So
I-
we don't know chat. But hey, thanks for chilling with us. Thanks for
Yeah.
hanging
The
out.
future is bright.
Thanks for joining us for the Nemmys, the most prestigious silly award show in tabletop gaming.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like that's it. Should
Hey,
we?
sometimes-
Should we change? Go ahead.
I was like, sometimes we tell them GG and GN.
We do sometimes tell them that. Oh, hey, here's something. I wrote a little song,
No.
like an anime opening soundtrack that's about our campaign. Do you want to hear it? Should I play it?
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
is this the first episode where you play the intro at the outro?
Oh, that's cool. Like this whole thing
Next
has been
season's
one
outro.
episode of Winged Badger Tavern.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this this campaign-length episode of Winged Badger Tavern.
Yeah, for the 140 hour or some odd.
Yeah. Here. Okay. Well, here I'll
think
play
that's
that then,
actually
and I'll
way
put the
under.
loading screens up, and then we'll end the stream.
Nice.
Remember, during nullification.
私は時間と空間を支配しますサイコロが友達を呼ぶ一緒に日常生活を超える 調子では全てが可能です。誰にでもヒーローになれる。誰にでもヒーローになれる。誰にでもヒーローになれる。今日私はヒーローです。今日私はヒーローです。自分の役割を選択して一人を語ろう。私たちが一緒に気づくこの年では全てが可能です。
GG's and GN.
Wow.
And the stream is over.